Wonderful to see everyone. The date is February 24th, and this begins our bill hearings for the day. I am Chair Janelle Wilkins, and thank you to all the committee members who are assembled here and on time. We are going to start with House Bill 898, an administration bill, the Decade Act, Economic Development, Delivering Economic Competitiveness, and Advancing Development Efforts. We have the Secretary. Welcome again, Mr. Secretary, to the Ways and Means Committee. Please do come on up and feel free to bring up your panel. It's also, of course, wonderful to have former member Tony Bridges here, and good to see you.
You as well.
All right, thank you. And I should also mention for colleagues that this bill is jointly assigned with the Economic Matters Committee, and we are joined by our wonderful colleagues, Delegate Chi, Delegate Pruski, and Delegate Ahrens. Thank you for being here. Welcome. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Yes, ma'am. If you want, I can just start, and I'll turn it over to the panel. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of Ways and Means and Economic Matters. You all have me a little nervous to be back over in the House today. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, Tony Bridges, Deputy Legislative Officer on behalf of Governor Wes Moore, here to present House Bill 898, the Delivering Economic Competitiveness and Advancing Development Efforts, or the Decade Act of 2026. So the Decade Act is not new to this committee. It's not new to the General Assembly. In fact, last year, you all heard the Decade Act as it was presented. The Senate also heard the Decade Act, did some work, sent it over to the House side. You all started your work, but we didn't finish, get it across the finish line. And so we're bringing the Decade Act back, but we're bringing it back in a different form. If you can recall, last year, it was a much bigger bill. There were actually 29 provisions within this bill. This year, we have 10 provisions that are within the bill. And so it's a much slimmer version of what you heard last year. In fact, the Decade Act aims to increase business investment, support startups, and improve efficiency of state-sponsored economic development initiatives by, of course, sharpening the economic development tools we have in our toolbox. The overarching goal is really threefold: to apply lessons learned to our economic development programs to improve them, to ensure programs are straightforward and easy to market and utilize, and ensure our economic tools are complementary of one another. As the governor noted in the State of the State, in 3 years, we've attracted more than $10 billion in private investment here in the state of Maryland, and we've secured new partnerships that I know Secretary Coker can go on and on about. Besides those partnerships and the policy, the governor proposed budget also includes funding to continue to support our economic development programs. Funding that includes $13.5 million in state funding through capital funds from Medco to support construction of the National Sphere, the Sphere in National Harbor, $15.5 million for stem cell research institutions, $14.6 million in capital funding for the AstraZeneca facility improvements and expansion in Frederick County, and for the construction of a new facility in Montgomery County, which is the first allocation of an 8-year commitment. $16 million for the state Sunny Day Fund, which enables Maryland to strategically grow by attracting major businesses and creating jobs and investment. In closing, you'll hear members on this panel who discuss different provisions within the Act. They'll touch on activities that target our small and minority businesses, our film industry, as well as initiatives like the Rise Zone, which is another tool to attract businesses and create jobs near our qualified institutions. And so with that, you'll hear this more streamlined bill to increase our business investment, support startups, and improve efficiency of our state-sponsored economic development initiatives. And with that, we humbly request a favorable report of House Bill 898. And if it's okay, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to the rest of the panel before we take questions.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and committee members. For the record, I am Maryland Commerce Secretary Harry Coker, and I am testifying in enthusiastic support of House Bill 898, the Decade Act of 2026. House Bill 898 is the cornerstone of the administration's efforts this session to increase Maryland's economic competitiveness, particularly across our lighthouse sectors of key industries. This legislation focuses on enhancing key programs administered by the Department of Commerce and our partners at Medco to make those programs more effective, increase their return on investment, and ultimately to attract more private investment to the state of Maryland. The Decade Act of 2026, amongst other things, moves the Sunny Day program, which is also known as the Economic Development Opportunities Program Fund, to the Department of Commerce, rebrands it as the Strategic Closing Fund, and renews its focus on business attraction. Also extends the Research and Development Tax Credit until 2031, and the Employer Security Clearance Cost Tax Credit until 2032. The bill also removes the $10 million per production cap for the Film Production Activity Tax Credit, and this will allow Maryland to attract larger film and TV projections, generating more investment and a larger economic impact, and also helping the strong production crews of the Maryland film and television industry. The bill also enhances two of Commerce's primary discretionary business assistance programs, the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Authority and Fund, or MEDAF, and the Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority, or MSBDSFA. House Bill 898 also increases the maximum amount of assistance that can be issued through MEDAF for several different capabilities. This includes doubling the maximum amount of financial assistance that can be approved by the Secretary of Commerce without approval from the MEDAF authority, from $2.5 million to $5 million, and increasing the maximum loan amount for a local economic development opportunity from $5 million to $7.5 million, amongst other changes. The bill also eliminates the requirement for local jurisdictions to contribute a 10% financial match to the funding that the state is putting up for the project, ensuring that our local jurisdictions will be able to participate regardless of the financial resources that they may have available. House Bill 898 also redistributes 0.75% of state video lottery terminal revenue from the small, minority, and women-owned business account to MSBDSFA, splitting SMWOBA's current 1.5% allocation between the two programs. MSBDSFA provides access to capital to disadvantaged borrowers that cannot access traditional banking, but have been largely reliant on special funds. Splitting this funding stream between SMWOBA will also provide sustainable revenue to keep funding available for those business owners. And because SMWOBA is a revolving loan fund, it is capitalized to a level that it can continue to lend the same amounts annually. This bill also consolidates 4 separate funds that operate under MSBDSFA into a single Maryland Small Business Development Financing Fund. It also increases MSBDSFA limits from $2 million to $3 million for loans, $2.25 million to $3 million for surety, and $2.5 million to $5 million for bonds. Now, we all know that 2025 was a very challenging year for Maryland and the nation and the world. We saw dramatic cuts right here in Maryland in federal funding and the catastrophic elimination of nearly 25,000 federal jobs in the state. Despite those headwinds, we did score a significant number of economic development wins, including commitments from Microsoft and DARPA to support the $1 billion Capital Quantum Initiative in the Discovery District of College Park. NatureCell, building a stem cell manufacturing facility in Baltimore City and bringing with it 500 jobs. AstraZeneca's $2 billion expansion of its manufacturing operations. Hitachi Rail, building out its manufacturing operations in Hagerstown. And more recently, announcements like the $1 billion Sphere Arena coming to National Harbor. Last year alone, commerce activities helped to create and retain more than 4,800 jobs. And this Decade Act, if passed, will help us maintain and increase the momentum that we currently have. As our economy grows, Maryland's posture and reputation get stronger, and the more we can attract future investment. This legislation is a critical part of the Moore Miller's economic growth agenda. This will make us stronger, this will make us faster, and this will make us more competitive. We humbly and sincerely request a favorable report on House Bill 898. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Nice job, Harry. For the record, my name is Tom Sadowski. I'm Executive Director of the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, MEDCO for short. Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the Ways and Means Committee, we're very pleased to be part of this panel and part of this discussion. This is signature legislation, no doubt, and is central to the competitiveness and diversification of Maryland's economy going forward. We really applaud this effort because it helps MEDCO utilize what it currently does really well. But before I get into that, I want to just touch on the fact that this bill, House Bill 898, it does endeavor to grow our innovation and knowledge economy, leverage our most strategic of assets, and invest in communities that support those assets. It also provides our residents greater opportunity to apply their talents, gain knowledge, and advance their skills. So this isn't just a mere, economic development. This is a three-dimensional, very strategic effort to take advantage of all the great things that Maryland has at its disposal and really kind of kick it into gear. Specific to MEDCO, House Bill 898 provides us, as I had said before, the opportunity to do what we do best. We invest in infrastructure. We improve infrastructure. We can continue to do that by managing the Build Our Future program. We build transformative places. Placemaking is really in our wheelhouse around higher ed institutions, federal laboratories, old hospitals, or abandoned state properties. That is really what we do, help to inspire and develop transit-oriented development. But most of all, it really captures our signature capability, which is bringing the private sector and public sector together to enhance the capital stack. With this bill, not only are there state resources that are brought to bear, but they're brought to MEDCO in a way where we can best leverage them. MEDCO already does a great job of being good stewards of public resources. Oftentimes, we're able to bring a 10-to-1 match. For every one state dollar, there's another 10 in private sector dollars that comes in a lot of the projects that we manage. But with the management of these additional programs, we're able to capitalize on our revenue bond issuance capabilities as well, thereby enhancing the capital stack available for a lot of these projects. During our 40-year history, we've amassed a financing portfolio of over $9 billion. And we've managed over 350 projects. And we have been responsible stewards of public and private dollars. This bill enables us to do more of that good work in continued partnership with our friends at Commerce and at the Maryland Department of Transportation, and really make Maryland the most competitive economy of its size in the nation. So with that, pleased to have this opportunity to testify on behalf of House Bill 898, and we really ask you for your favorable consideration and favorable report. Thanks.
Awesome. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Anthony Thomas. I lead the Greater Baltimore Committee, and the GBC now represents the former Economic Alliance. We have included now Be Local and Upsurge as part of our portfolio. And so I'd like to speak to the engagement that has been underway that has led us to this version of the Decade Act. Over the last 3 years, the administration has worked closely with business leaders, entrepreneurs, for how we reposition Maryland to be more competitive for business investment and private sector growth. That engagement matters because business has said we need flexible modern tools, we need incentives that reflect where the economy is actually growing in innovation-driven economies and this modernization of manufacturing. Entrepreneurs and investors need these programs to move at the speed of business, and so we have to move away from a lot of our legacy programs. Creative and film companies have also told us they love Maryland. They love our creative talent. They love our workforce. We have beautiful locations throughout the state, but our current programs limit the scale and the scope of that storytelling, and that's something that we can change. The Decade Act responds directly to those realities. We know what success looks like. The $2 billion AstraZeneca investment is the largest investment in recent memory, but it should be something that Maryland sees on a regular basis. At the GBC, we track major investments across the Baltimore metro area, and we've quantified over $4 billion alone in the last 2 years. But those numbers should be more robust. Likewise, venture capital activity, both regionally and statewide, is nowhere near the level that matches our assets or the type of intellectual capability coming out of our universities. The Decade Act is not a finish line, but it is a start. And so it will strengthen and modernize those tools so we can win and close deals, accelerate timelines so opportunities don't fall through the cracks, and allow programs with where we see investment decisions being made in the next few years. And so the GBC is grateful to be part of this work that led to this legislation, and I am here to offer our support for it. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Lahat, you're here for questions. Okay. All right, first question from Delegate Polakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for your presentations and bringing the bill and just the information that you provided to date before we get to this hearing. I actually just want to start with a couple provisions in the bill that have been the subjects of evaluations by our Department of Legislative Services, and maybe just start with some framing. And I'm just taking these in the order that they show up in the fiscal note. So say with the job creation tax credit, it has been a few years, I think, since this one's been evaluated. But if perhaps Jen or someone else from the team can just talk a bit about what the intention is or the hope is with the job creation tax credit, given that this has been one that's been flagged as being duplicative with some of our other state incentives.
Thank you, Delegate. I'm happy to answer that. Yes, to your point, I think the job creation tax credit does need more work moving forward. Right now, it is the only tax credit program that we have available that is focused on job creation that is available statewide. So for the purposes of this bill and really to make sure that we are not doing a disservice to any changes to the program, we wanted to ensure that the tax credit continues to exist to be available for the state and for our county partners when they are working with businesses in their jurisdictions that are looking to expand. But it is something that we want to take a closer look at and make some improvements moving forward. We just, with a bill that has this much scope already, didn't have the time to truly dedicate to it to make the best improvements that we could make at this point.
Okay, and then moving on to the research and development tax credit, that's one that DLS has recommended terminating or making some changes to. Clearly, the bill might fall into that second category. Do you want to, talk about how this bill responds maybe to those recommendations?
This bill, it doesn't respond to those recommendations. Frankly, we have been really happy with the changes that were made to the R&D tax credit a few years ago. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but when the basic credit was eliminated, so we now just have the growth credit available. And through the work of this committee, we added in a small business set aside within the R&D tax credit that has been a really great change that the department has been very happy with. The small businesses that are participating in the R&D tax credit program are receiving a much higher percentage of the tax credits that they're applying for. It's a prorated tax credit. So I think from the department's perspective, we are very happy with that program in its current state. And that's really the main reason we brought this one in as a pure sunset extension.
Okay, and then last one on this front with BITC.
So BITC, I know there's also a bill introduced this year that would convert it to a grant program. The department did not take a position on that bill necessarily, but we are supportive of converting that to a grant program. That is another program that is very successful, especially in its true purpose of attracting investment to early stage biotech companies in the state. We're happy with the program generally. I think converting it from a tax credit program to a grant program would be beneficial to the businesses. It makes it a lot easier for those investors to benefit and makes it truly a better incentive. We obviously did not propose that in this bill, but the committee heard, I believe, I don't know if you've heard.
We had the
you did
hearing
hear
last
bill.
week.
Okay, so you've heard that bill. I think if you were so inclined to pass that bill, we would be very happy to work with the committee on how to align that with Decade. Some of the changes that we have in Decade would not be necessary if it is being converted to a grant program.
Okay, that's super helpful to know. Thank you. And then thank you, Madam Chair. My last question is on enterprise zones. This summer, we had some very helpful correspondence from the department back to my office about the status of putting forward draft rulemakings in response to a prior bill the legislature passed. And that letter, I believe, said that you all were going to start on that draft rulemakings over the summer. Has that commenced at this point?
I actually got an update from our AGs this morning that they are moving forward in their final state, that I believe those are being finalized as we speak.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Delegate. Let's go to Delegate Ahrens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple questions. First, you mentioned the Sunny Day Fund as going to be, you're taking some of that. I was under the understanding the Sunny Day Fund was because of the Key Bridge and it was a temporary action.
The funding that was utilized for the Key, or to benefit businesses after the collapse of the Key Bridge, that funding came from the Rainy Day Fund. The Sunny Day Fund is a separate program.
But you mentioned that you're going to be taking money from the Sunny Day Fund for this.
We're going to be relocating the Sunny Day Fund. Right now, it kind of just exists.
So we don't need it anymore? Is that what you're saying? We need it for this, but we don't need it for the ports? Because that's what the purpose of that funding was for.
It was not utilized for the port businesses. That was a separate fund.
The Sunny Day Fund, as I recall, was set up after the Key Bridge problem, and we set that up to promote businesses to stay in the state of Maryland.
A separate program was set up after the collapse of the Key Bridge that utilized funding from the Rainy Day Fund. And it was a separate kind of one-time fund. The Sunny Day Fund is a different program that has existed, I'm not sure how long exactly, but.
Okay, that's fine. My understanding was the Sunny Day Fund was set up for that. The other question I had was the casino funds. How much was that you're taking out of the casino funds?
We're going to be splitting the existing, right now, 1.5% of slot revenue comes to the small minority women-owned business account. We're going to be splitting that revenue stream in half.
Okay, so we're robbing another program to pay for this program.
We are redistributing a portion of those proceeds. It's a revolving loan fund, and it is very well capitalized right now, so we're ensuring that the other program is sufficiently
Okay,
capitalized.
on those two questions, you see where I'm going? We're taking money that we already are using for something else to fund something else, and I'm wondering what the effects back door are going to be. My last question is, when I look at the bill, I'm not seeing anything in there that I have been told is affecting businesses wanting to come to Maryland and staying in Maryland. And that would be the infrastructure, utilities, the cost of doing business, regulations, whatever. Is there anything coming that we're going to be looking for that's going to tell a business, you know what, we're not going to be the burden on you. We're actually going to want you to stay here, show you to stay here, other than these dollars, which I think are temporary.
I'll add it. So one of the partnership opportunities that the JBC is working with Commerce on is to provide business support to address the issues around energy and how it impacts economic development. So it is something that will be a priority for us, at least in collaboration with the department.
I'm not seeing anything that's sitting down telling me as a business owner, I want to come back here, other than you're going to give me some money to be here for a little while, or you're going to lend me money to start my business. But I'm still going to have the problems that have taken a lot of businesses out of the state. We're probably, 49th or last in business retention, and I'm not seeing that other than a little bit of cash that will keep me for a little while till these other things start affecting me. Is there anything in this bill that's going to help me want to be here and keep the businesses that are leaving here?
Let me just say, I think there are a number of things that are within this bill. What we've tried to do is sharpen the tools that we have in our toolbox. This isn't a one-size-sort-of-fits-all for every business. This is what do we have that we think are making an impact on the businesses to attract and retain them that we can actually make better. And so that's what this bill looks at. There are, I will say, other bills that are out there, including an energy bill that I think the governor is actually talking or having a hearing on right now in another committee that does talk about some of that you're also interested in. And so with this bill, this is looking at some of the tools that we already have and making sure that those tools are better to actually attract and retain businesses, and not necessarily talking about the full scope of doing infrastructure and all the other things that I think part of what that other bill did last year was try to look at a number of things, which is why it had 29 provisions. This bill was only talking about 10 provisions that we think we can get a good return on investment on.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, and just for the record and everyone's information, Delegate Ahrens is representing the Economic Matters Committee. Delegate Chi, who also represents the Economic Matters Committee, is next. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I applaud the administration for this ambitious bill. I think it sends the right message that Maryland is ready and willing to play. And it's also fiscally responsible in terms of retooling and realigning the existing programs with the new economy. So thank you for that. And I appreciate my former colleague, Mr. Bridges' outreach. He was diligent, making sure that people who might be sitting here actually gets briefing on this, so thank you. I have a couple of questions. So one is about the Build Our Futures grant pilot program, which I now understand is going to transfer from Department of Commerce to Medco, which makes sense. Mr. Sadowski, my friend, good to see you here. Could you explain under this new program, would you address the issues that we heard a lot from the biotech companies, smaller early stage biotech companies, about the need for small wet labs? Is this bill going to help them in that regard?
I think that it will, and thank you for the question. I mean, part of the intent in moving it to Medco, again, is we can have a more open and agile process where we can address those types of opportunities more quickly. We can also couple on a lot of our other financial capabilities, our bond financing capabilities, as I had mentioned during my testimony, so that we can address larger projects. We can extend out the repayment terms 25, 30 years. It's my hope we can address the need for that flexible wet lab kind of facility where startups, early stage, later early stage, can come in with more flexible terms and be able to utilize the kind of equipment and get the kind of mentorship that they need to scale here in Maryland, as opposed to moving to another state where they may be pursuing venture funding. So yes, I mean, from a bio perspective, we've had some experience building out SCIF facilities, secure compartmentalized information facilities, which is very desirous of a lot of these companies working in the quantum and cybersecurity space. So if we can provide that more of that kind of technology-related innovation infrastructure, we feel like these younger companies, these growing companies will stay here, and that's where we're really going to see a return on investment as they start to pursue later stage funding.
Thank you. And Mr. Secretary, I understand so to my colleague Delegate Plavkovich-Carr's earlier question about R&D credits, I understand a few years ago, the department before your time actually reduced the matching percentage for investment R&D tax credit investments. Can you elaborate what this bill does? Will we go back to the original funding, like a 50% or whatever the amount is? Because I understand there was a reduction a few years ago.
This bill won't make any changes to the percentages of the credit. It's just a sunset extension of the program in its current form.
Okay, and can you explain how the RISE zone will be expanded under this bill, which is a great thing, I think, to give us more flexibility. But how would this work under this bill?
For the RISE zones, one of the things we're doing with the RISE zone program is relocating it over to Medco. So Medco would be administering the RISE zone program moving forward. There are a lot of changes to enhancements in different programs. We're trying to ensure that different enhancements that are offered across both the RISE zone program and other tax credit programs at Commerce are more standardized. Right now, if you get an enhancement under one program, it's a certain percentage, but if it's an enhancement in a different program, it's another one. We're simplifying that and making a standardized enhancement amount. We've created the Rhizone catchment areas so that with the program over at Medco, they can really truly use it as a placemaking tool and make it more effective and really, it has not been utilized. None of the incentives have been utilized through the program. So we're trying to ensure that the program is effective as an incentive and we can really build out these ecosystems around the qualified institutions.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Let's go to Delegate Patterson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for the delivery today. I have a question as relates to the small minority women-owned business account and the notation that a percentage of the funds of revenues will be reallocated. I want to know, I'm looking at this, it says that the Commerce and provides grants for the group to eligible fund managers in practice. And that term in practice is somewhat problematic for me. I just want to make sure that the organization that we fought so hard for will not have a reduction in funds for allocations.
Thank you, Delegate. So the small minority women-owned business account, yes, we are redirecting a portion of future revenues into the Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority. Right now, SMWOBA has a fund balance at Commerce that is available to be distributed to those fund managers that are the entities that do make the loans directly to businesses. In addition, those fund managers are able to retain the repayments of the loans that they have already made. So we feel confident that with the about $10 million that they will be receiving moving forward after we implement this split, with that $10 million plus the fund balance currently at Commerce and the repayments of loans that have already been made to businesses, the program, the Small Minority Women-Owned Business Account, will be able to continue to function at the same levels that it has been to date. And this was really done so that we could ensure that MISBIDFA, which also benefits disadvantaged businesses, has a sustainable revenue stream and has funding available to provide to those businesses.
Thank you. I just want to make sure again that this organization will not be adversely impacted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate Roberson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I actually was along the same lines that Delegate Patterson was going on when it comes to our small minority businesses. I don't know how much is in the funds as of now, but do you have that answer for me?
Right now, at the department that is available to be distributed to the fund managers, if they need additional funds to loan out, we have around $60 million. That's on top of, again, the money that they already have in their checking accounts or that they have already loaned out to businesses. The program has been in existence since casinos opened, so it's been almost 20 years, I believe, at this point. So it has received somewhere around $150 million over its lifetime. And again, as a revolving loan program, it has been well capitalized. The fund managers are doing excellent work. They're loaning out about $20 million a year. And we do have funding available now that if they are in need of more funds to be able to loan to businesses, they can come request those funds from the department, and we will still have money coming in for them to be able to keep those funds available if their balances drop down.
Got it, thank you. I want to turn kind of along Delegate Aaron's line of questioning. The job creation tax credit that you have here in particular, when we look at one thing that popped out to me was an eligible industry must qualify, and it says that they must expand an existing facility or build a new one. Am I reading that correctly?
believe so. I don't remember the statute off the top of my head, but it sounds right.
Yeah, okay, so it has to be either a new facility or they expand it, and they give the number of individuals that must work there. And then it says they must be engaged in an eligible industry. Do you know what qualifies an eligible industry?
I don't remember for that program off the top of my head. That might be, I believe that's one that lists eligible industries in the statute, but I would have to look at it.
Okay, I'll check it out. I didn't know if you all were changing that or adding.
We are not.
Adding to it, okay. And so what you are trying to do, because I think, was shared by Delegate Aaronson, and I agree that as we try to not only attract new businesses, but keep the ones that we have here, is find ways that we can support them as well for those. And I just want to make sure that we're doing our part to ensure that we attract those businesses. And thankfully, here at Ways and Means, we've been able to meet with those from the chamber and wanting those that are headquartered here in particular, but also those that are not to be attracted here. So we just want to make sure that we're doing our part in that space to do that. And so my concern is, though, if it's just related to expansion of a facility, and not just those that are staying here. And you're saying it's not. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. It's for really any job creation in the state. So a new facility or any existing company that's adding new jobs.
Got it. Okay. I want to just throw in one other thing for us to consider, and I'll probably look at statute because I know it's not in statute, but I had a conversation with some returning citizens as well, and I know the statute deals with veterans in particular, but also as we look for ways to incorporate all Marylanders, that we want all of them to be tax-paying. I think that's also some place that we can also look to invest in that space as well as we look to expand this. I know the governor is concerned about veterans in particular. We want to make sure that all are included as we try to look for opportunities in this space. So I appreciate you all's help on that as well. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And let me just put a pin in something because it's come up a couple of times, and I've actually personally been working with the Commerce Department on this for over a year now regarding the Ms. Bidfa and the SMWOBA fund. So let's make sure that we unpack what we're doing here. Ms. Bidfa, which is the Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority. It helps support small businesses and disadvantaged businesses. Is that correct, Ms. Lahat?
Yes.
Okay. That really critical program that expands the viability of these businesses, that is an unfunded, does not have dedicated funding currently in the state of Maryland. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So it's a very important program for disadvantaged businesses, has no dedicated funding.
Correct.
Is it correct that we've had to work to transfer some funds previously so that we'd be able to do the work of Ms. Bidfa in our state? We had to do a one-time transfer in recent years.
Yes, it is.
Is it also correct that SMWOBA, which these acronyms, I'm gonna have to read it, small minority and women-owned business fund, is it correct that SMWOBA tends to have a surplus of funds? Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Or does this bill make sure that we do not underfund SMWOBA in any way? Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
But it ensures that we provide a dedicated funding source for Ms. Bidfa for those small and minority businesses, that we make sure that some of the surplus that SMWOBA has is transferred over to Ms. Bidfa so that it has that dedicated funding source. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page about what we're trying to do with Ms. Bidfa, undedicated, no funds allocated, and SMWOBA. So thank you. Those are really good questions and rightful questions that are coming up in the committee. Delegate Buckle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that I don't have to fight for SMWOBA. You have, as we have for many years, so you've clarified that I think they're both going to be taken care of, which is good. Just some clarifications, obviously a huge bill. So the MEDAF fund, there's a lot of things in here about raising criterion for awards, raising the amounts that can be given for certain projects. I like the part about removing the matching requirement from localities. Some localities are very well positioned to do that, others are not. Does it actually increase the amount of money that's going to be in the MEDAF fund, or does it just reorder, what you can do with it? In terms of the individual award caps within the fund envelope?
The latter. It does not increase the appropriation for the fund. It just increases the amount that we could award per project within the existing appropriation.
How much is in MEDAF currently? Because we've kind of messed around with that over the years. There's been more, there's been less. Like what is it set at today?
The appropriation is around $17.5 million of special funds. I don't know what the fund balance is right now, but generally the appropriation is $17.5 million per year.
And that's my only concern. I want to see the ability to add more of those MEDAF funds when it meets the bigger project. But without some additional criteria, I always worry that, you know, we're gonna use all of the MEDAF fund for you know, 2 projects in a given year. And there's 5 other projects that could help other counties that get thrown out. I'd love to see more money dedicated to MEDAF because I think it has a multiplier effect that brings the money back. That's kind of what I think is the hallmark of economic development. You invest and you grow within that investment. Other than that, I won't ask anything about SMWOBA. I think the chair has covered that very well. JCTC stays the same
Yes.
in the bill. Doesn't affect One Maryland. One Maryland exists, whether it's meeting all of its objectives or not. Those people who've qualified in the program for those underdeveloped areas, Baltimore City, Western Maryland, they all still get that. That's good to know. One other question. The BITSI, biotechnology, there's another bill here this year to convert BITSI from a tax credit, so we won't be able to call it, I guess, BITSI anymore, because the TC will come off, which that's probably good, and converts it into a direct grant program. Does this bill incorporate that, or like if we pass that bill and pass this one, will they somehow be out of line? Will we have to amend one of them?
There would need to be some amendment. There's a portion of what is in this bill that would not be necessary if you pass that bill. This bill did not contemplate the conversion to a grant.
Okay, and in your bill, Bitsy, the additions, the additional enhancements we put in for biotechnology investments that come in a handful of underdeveloped counties that don't have them, and also within RISE zones that we're trying to promote the connection to hospitals and universities, that actually gets enhanced. Like you guys are actually looking to give a little bit more of the incentive to draw things there. Is that fair?
I believe so. I know we're standardizing those amounts across the different programs. I can't remember that one exactly, if it increased or.
Yeah, I just read that it said that increase the value of the enhanced credit for investment in a qualified company located in a RISE zone or in specified counties from 50% to 75% of the investment up to $750,000. So it would make it a little bit sweeter to bring those things to places so we have a true statewide biotechnology. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for this panel of witnesses? Okay, well, seeing none, thank you so much, Mr. Secretary and the team for bringing this bill. We appreciate the governor's focus on Maryland's investments in our long-term economy, and we're looking forward to digging into this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we do have a second panel for the Decade Act. William Cole, Mary Morris, Evan Lutz, Debbie Dorsey, and Heather Tonelli.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name's Bill Cole. I'm a partner at Margrave Strategies, an economic development consulting firm headquartered in the Vice Chair's committee. Thank you and the members of the committee for the opportunity to be here today. I have led a wide-ranging career through public sector and private sector, and for the last several years I've been working with Anchor Institution, specifically across the state of Maryland. Prior to that, I served for 5 years as the president and CEO of Baltimore Development Corporation, which obviously led economic development for the city of Baltimore. I did 2 terms on the city council, and 27 years ago, I was a member of this Maryland House of Delegates. None of you were here then, so I was in the first class that had a laptop computer, so I was here a long time ago. But you know, when I was listening to the prior panel, and obviously I've worked very closely with Medco and Commerce, and prior to that, DBED, throughout my career, these tools are incredibly important. But specifically today, I'm here to talk about the RISE zone and the tweaks that are being made to that. 2 years ago, this body requested a review by Commerce, and they started a steering committee for a review of the RISE zone. I served on that steering committee, and a report was published by Commerce. The recommendations from that committee and the interviews we did with institutions, including UMB, and you'll hear from them in a moment, are incorporated in this bill, and they're incredibly important. As many of you know, and I'm just going to read one very small snippet from the Rhizome report because it's very important to understand. This was a well-intentioned program in 2014. It was created by the General Assembly to create transformational growth around anchor institutions throughout the state of Maryland. And unfortunately, to this date, not a single institution has benefited from this. So this is yet another step towards making this a useful tool. And the report said the Rhizome program has not produced any economic benefit to the institutions that applied for and secured zone certification, to the businesses located within the zone boundaries, nor to the communities surrounding the institution. The most significant attempt to revise the zone benefits in order to achieve the goal of capturing and leveraging technology and intellectual capital to create, grow, and attract businesses to the zone have also failed. So this is our chance to get that one right, and I'm excited about the changes, and I encourage a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Morris, and I'm here to testify on behalf of the University of Maryland, Baltimore, to express our strong support for the Decade Act of 2026. As one of Maryland's oldest public institutions and an anchor in West Baltimore, UMB plays a central role in advancing economic growth for both Baltimore City and the state. The Decade Act represents a thoughtful modernization of Maryland's economic development toolkit, tools that directly shape our ability to commercialize research, support startups, attract private investment, and create pathways to quality jobs. The proposed enhancements to programs such as the Rhizome, as Bill mentioned, the Build Our Future program, the Biotechnology Investment Incentive Tax Credit, and the Research and Development Tax Credit are especially impactful to us. These programs help companies emerging from our research enterprise grow and scale in Maryland. They attract industry partners to the biopark and strengthen high-growth sectors like biotechnology, life sciences, cybersecurity, and advanced manufacturing. Revitalizing the Rhizome program is particularly important for West Baltimore. Extending the certification period, broadening eligibility, and creating flexible support mechanisms will allow us to drive sustained place-based investment in neighborhoods, surrounding the biopark by attracting new businesses and growing local startups. Finally, modernizing capital programs such as MEDAF, MISBIDFA, and I can't even say this, MOBA, reinforces Maryland's commitment to small and minority entrepreneurs, owned businesses, and entrepreneurs who are essential to community stability and inclusive growth. Taken together, the Decade Act strengthens Maryland's competitive position and provides tools for UMB to fulfill our mission as an anchor institution. On behalf of UMB, I respectfully ask that you support this. Thank you.
Is it stuck? Oh, Mom.
For a moment. Oh,
There we go.
okay. There we go. All right. Thank you. Please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Debbie Dorsey. I am Chair of the Maryland Film Industry Coalition. We are an alliance of business and labor leaders, educational institutions, industry professionals who all, oh, that was fast. We work together to improve the business conditions for Maryland's film industry and television industry. We're here today to support the efforts, to support House Bill 899 and the efforts of the Governor in Commerce to positively strengthen the film industry. The program, the film tax credit, pays for itself. It's no upfront funding to the state. The credits are issued only after production has been complete and all the money and jobs have been created. From 2011 to 2025, the film industry generated more than $1.5 billion in economic impact. And enhancing this credit means that we can create more career pathways for students. It supports a skilled workforce of crew, actors, and industry professionals, many who are here today. We have a lot out here in our group. And right now, this enhancement will continue to provide a stable, predictable program, which is what we need to continue to be competitive in the film industry. So we ask for your favorable report, and thank you all very much for working with us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Am I allowed to go now? Great, okay. My name is Evan Lutz. I'm the CEO and founder of a business called Hungry Harvest. Perhaps more importantly, I'm born and raised in Maryland. I live here. I've located my business here. I founded this business called Hungry Harvest when I went to the University of Maryland College Park. Started as a college project where I was selling fresh produce to college students. And in the dozen years that we've been doing this, we've served tens of thousands, probably in the hundreds of thousands of Maryland's residents and families. We're located in Landover. We employ nearly 100 people, and we are a for-profit, mission-driven business. I say that we are a for-profit, mission-driven business very intentionally because it is very difficult for for-profit, mission-driven businesses to find funding. And that's where Ms. BIDFA came in. Ms. BIDFA, we got funding from Ms. BIDFA in the past couple of years. They provided a $1 million investment into Hungry Harvest, which was matched privately. And I can say pretty confidently that I don't think we would be here today, Hungry Harvest as its current form, without these funds. And so a lot of these acronyms go straight over my head. I run a business that sells fruits and vegetables. We are very proudly Marylanders. We are located here. And I'm here in support of strengthening Ms. BIDFA because it has really helped people like me, boots on the ground, businesses that are really trying to make an impact in this wonderful state. And I'm happy to answer any questions that any delegates may have. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, if we've heard from everyone, we'll go ahead to questions. Delegate Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is more of a ask for the future, which is for former Councilman Cole and former delegate who was in the governor's office. You mentioned BDC. I don't see them testifying today. I would really be interested in just kind of their perspective on it. So if we could just work offline to get them on, to get them something from them, I'd appreciate that.
Delegate Roberson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm excited about the ministry being here. The MPA, Ms. Cobra, it's so good to see you here. Just I know the benefits of the tax credits and incentivizing motion pictures to be here in the state, having been an extra in a previous show that was filmed in Baltimore City, Delegate Young, where I had my debut on a Netflix show, but grateful for it. But also, if you could, I did a tour in Atlanta of the different films, and it's every day that they're filming there in different parts of the city. And two things. One, while I was having that experience and understanding that a lot of these actors and actresses who are doing this, whenever they have the opportunity to and looking for that really full-time employment, the benefits that it provided, because for me, I was unemployed at the time, but because of the benefit of them being there, I was able to receive financial compensation for just being an extra with no lines. And so the benefits to that of having them here, but also, could you expand also on the fact of not only that, but how it brings not just the people who are here who live in the state, but also other businesses that it allows for the expansion in that space, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. So in addition to employing crew and actors, there are other businesses such as equipment rental houses, and so you have camera, Grip Electric, and then businesses for location services, walkie-talkie rentals, cones, all sorts of things that are needed for production, which we have in the state now, and we can continue to grow that.
Yes, I mean, you haven't even touched on the food. My goodness.
Oh, the food. Well, that is the most important part.
That is the most important.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And we do have one additional witness who is favorable, who I believe is virtual, so we'll bring her in.
Thank you, ma'am. My camera's been disabled. Is there any way to get it activated?
Just one moment. Let's see if we can. Can you try starting your camera again, please?
Yes, ma'am. There you go. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Black. I'm the CEO and founder of Bon Appetit. I'm speaking in support of House Bill 898. I moved to Maryland from Virginia because of the business opportunities that existed here for small businesses and the lower rents. This bill helps with retention because it offers multiple types of funding, from matching investment funds to lines of credit to equipment and building loans, allowing businesses to grow and expand within Maryland. There are other laws that help with utilities and rent, using tax cuts for the owners of facilities that are required to be passed down to the leaseholders. There are also other state funds and programs in place that pay for the cost of training employees and help employers to find qualified employees and locations to do their business in. I am not from a family of wealth, and my military service left me without business connections. So when I attempted to raise money for many years, I was left with almost no funding. As we know, Black women receive less than 1% of all investment funding in the United States. I was unable to raise money despite the fact that my business was growing exponentially, landing on shelves in Walmart, Whole Foods, Mom's Organic, and Sam's Club. We had to turn down growth opportunities because we didn't have enough money and could not raise enough money to take advantage of the opportunities. This bill is an incredibly important program that changes the game for businesses like mine. In the months after getting funding from the Maryland program, I sold over $1 million in date sweetened chocolate. I was only able to raise the funds with other investors because they were made more confident because the state of Maryland believed in me and my business. I was on Shark Tank this summer, and though I could not get traditional investors to put money into my business, the sharks jumped at opportunities to invest and admired the growth that my company was able to achieve with such a small amount of money. This program is even more important today because of the negative impacts that tariffs are having on small businesses and specifically minority-owned businesses. They're going out of business at an exponential rate, and they need the support of this program. Redirecting the revenues collected from the lottery terminals will help ensure that this program remains funded and isn't dependent upon an annual vote. This way, program managers know there will be funding for applicants, reducing uncertainty. Additionally, please help Maryland minority-owned businesses grow. We cannot wait another year for this bill to pass. We will not be able to survive. Pass Bill 898. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you can stay on in case there are any questions. We did have Ms. Heather Tonelli who was called up. There wasn't enough space for her to present on the favorable. So I'm going to ask one person to step back, and then Ms. Tonelli can give her favorable testimony.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and the committee. Oh, thanks. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm Heather Tonelli, Director of Economic and Tourism Development for Queen Anne's County, but I'm here today representing the Maryland County's Economic Development Partnership as their chair, and it is a group of statewide economic developers that is an affiliate of MAKO. The group, the Maryland County's Economic Development Partnership, is excited and welcomes the economic development tools that are represented in the Decade Act. Over the past year, we have, after the first Decade Act came out, we met with the Maryland Department of Commerce and others to work on what we could do to make sure that the tools that were within the Decade Act really represented what was needed by our business community, and we feel that there are great strides in making that happen. As you consider this legislation, we do encourage that the recognition that Maryland's economy is not a one-size-fits-all for our rural communities as well as our cities and municipalities. The workforce that's there and the industries that are focused on are different in every way, and that's what makes Maryland great, is we're not a one-size-fits-all. Our local economic development offices are the boots on the ground. We are the ones that are meeting with the businesses on a daily basis, and as you've heard from some of our businesses today, it's important that we keep these tools. Just this past week, I was with the Department of Commerce, and we were going out meeting with businesses, and the job creation tax credit came up. And the the research and development tax credit came up. And those are important tools for us. The other one that we were really excited to see the changes in is the MEDAF program that's available, and the limit on the 10%, or the match, the removal of the match is a great move forward. And we did also encourage the increase in the overall program funding to make sure that the funding reaches all areas of the state and is available. So we are very happy with the Decade Act. Thank you.
Wonderful. I think that we do have one more favorable witness, but before we do that, just to close out my earlier questions regarding Ms. Bidfa, I think we have two businesses here on this panel that benefited from Ms. Bidfa, and I wanted to hear you again state just how Ms. Bidfa helped your businesses and if you feel that dedicated funding that's in this legislation is important. I think that was Mr. Lutz and Ms. Black.
Teresa, would you like to go first?
You can go ahead.
Okay. We were basically unable to raise private investor dollars before Ms. Bidfa came in. So the $1 million match that Ms. Bidfa provided us basically turned into $2 million for Hungry Harvest, and that was instrumental into changing our business model. So I'm getting kind of into the weeds here, but Hungry Harvest started as a sort of a direct-to-consumer online marketplace where consumers could order produce and groceries and fresh foods online. Post-pandemic, that industry took a really big hit. And so we were nearly out of cash, nearly out of business. We had to pivot our business to where we are today, where we're servicing much more schools and hospitals, nonprofits. In order to make that pivot in a business, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it's honestly very painful, right? There's a lot of layoffs that need to happen. And it's also very hard to convince private equity or venture capital or banks even to fund that kind of business pivot. The only way we could have done that is through Ms. Bidfa. And so they believed in us. Ms. Bidfa, the state of Maryland, has been incredibly kind and generous in terms of that pivot and that investment. And now the business, Hungry Harvest, is doing extremely well, better than where we were doing when we were doing in before the pandemic. And again, all of that is because of Ms. Bidfa. It's incredibly important funding. I am in strong favor of advocating for any kind of strengthening of this bill because it is, or of this funding, because for entrepreneurs like me, for entrepreneurs like Teresa, I don't want to speak on her behalf, but I've met her at a couple events before, and I know that the state of Maryland supporting us is, I don't know if we would be here if it wasn't for that funding. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you, and congratulations on your success. That's good news. Ms. Black.
Thank you. So for us, we actually started December of 2019, so right before COVID happened. And obviously we were hit exponentially hard. When I applied for PPP loans, was not even able to get those until there was a dedicated funding for specifically minority-owned businesses. I'm what you call a triple hitter. I'm a woman, I'm a veteran, and I'm Black. And so it is very, very, very difficult for me to try to find funding. I have had to rely primarily on pitch competitions, veteran pitch competitions, in order to get funding for my business. And so that's how I was able to secure any funding that I've gotten prior to this program. Now, I have looked at other states for funding, like Minnesota. I did a program with them. While I won $350,000 in cash, they never gave it to me. I looked at programs in New York where they never selected a Black-owned business for their ultimate funding prize. And then you have Maryland that specifically dedicates funds to make sure that minority-owned businesses are able to get money. I have been through the coals. Like I can't even explain how difficult it has been for me to try to raise money. And there's always an excuse. There's always an excuse for why they cannot put money into my business while I watch my male counterparts able to raise millions of dollars without having even any sales. And so this program was important for me specifically because I would have gone out of business, not because I couldn't sell, but because I was selling too fast. I needed the cash in order to continue to grow. And without it, I would not have been able to continue. As I said, when I went to Shark Tank, after getting the matching funding from this program, I went to Shark Tank after that. And I don't know if any of you guys saw the episode, but the sharks responded very, very well. And I knew that when ultimately my episode aired, that I was going to need extra cash. And so I went back to the program and said, hey, I need a line of credit in order to be able to support this growth. And I was approved. And you know what? It helps. Like, it helps because I tried to apply for a line of credit with another way, and they declined, you know? And so, and I'm not going to say it's because I'm Black or because I'm a woman or whatever, but I'm saying that it's an awful, huge coincidence that it happens to me every time. And this program was actually created for businesses like mine, for founders like me, and it helps.
Thank you so much. That was extremely helpful. Thank you to the both of you, and congratulations, Ms. Black, on your success. And I'm looking forward to watching that Shark Tank episode, so I'll make sure I go back and watch it. Congratulations. All right. We do have one final favorable witness. I'd like to call up Stephen Adams if you are here. Okay, maybe we don't have one final favorable witness. Okay. Did I miss someone?
Stephen Adams registered for me.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Threw me off.
Proceed.
Sorry. Good. Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Amy Gowan. I'm the President and CEO for Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation. We are frequent users of the programs authorized under the Decade Act to help create jobs, attract private investment, and grow our tax base. Maryland needs flexible, responsive incentive tools if we want to win investment. Large employers in high-growth industries compare states side by side. To be competitive, we have to move quickly with attractive, well-structured incentive packages. So anecdotally, I just met this morning with a company that's planning a major expansion in one of Maryland's lighthouse industries alongside the Department of Commerce. And when deals like this are being structured, every available tool matters in assembling a competitive package. So that's why extending the tax credit program is essential. The tools are in demand, and it's because they really work. They're needed. We rely on programs like MEDAF. It's one of the few tools that are available for high employment, high CapEx, capital-intensive projects, and the proposed changes to allow letters from local jurisdictions, as well as eliminating the local match requirements, provide much-needed flexibility and help keep the time-sensitive deals moving like we need them to. I also want to reiterate that not only do we need the tools, but we need to stack them to build a competitive package. Placing the Strategic Closing Fund within the Maryland Department of Commerce helps to bolster the capital stack, and we heard about that and the importance of that earlier with Mr. Sadowski, and allows them to act strategically and deliberately to close the deals. And finally, I just want to acknowledge the role of MEDCO. In Anne Arundel County, MEDCO has been a really strong partner on multiple complex projects. Moving Build Our Future and RISE to MEDCO will allow the state to leverage their bonding capacity, project management, and their ability to execute quickly to bring infrastructure online faster and to accelerate private investment. So we respectfully urge a favorable report, along with County Executive Stuart Pittman, who wasn't able to be here, but sent a letter in support as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions for this witness? Okay, seeing none, our final witness on this bill is a favorable with amendment. Mr. Canali.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Kevin Canali here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties in support of the bill with an amendment. I believe it is a friendly and clarifying amendment. You do have my written testimony. You heard from the economic developers who do the work on the ground. I'll second everything that they said. We really appreciate the administration and Commerce for meeting with us over the interim. Last year we had several issues. All of our amendments from last year's bill have been incorporated into this one, so we greatly appreciate that. There's one piece in the bill that shifts programs over to MEDCO from Commerce. Commerce. All we ask is that counties and our economic developers continue to have a seat at the table with Medco. Again, I believe that is clarifying and a friendly amendment. And with that, we'd ask for a favorable report with that amendment, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for this witness? All right, seeing no questions, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 898. The next bill, Delegate Griffith, House Bill 842, tax exemption property acquired by surviving spouses of service member, repeal of limitation. And thank you to our Economic Matters members for joining us.
And I got a couple, here, and I got a couple, 3 witnesses in my first panel on them.
Is this your bill? This is the one I'm on?
Yeah.
Is anybody coming?
Yes, they're trying to get outside. Madam Chair, my witnesses are trying to get in from outside. They got caught in the traffic. They're right outside the door. And Kevin Canale is a favorable amendment, but I'd like if you could be on my first panel. Yes, we're taking this amendment. Yeah. If that's okay, please. Thank you. I owe you. Just 3. 3. 3.
Let me get your.
Yeah. Perfect. I just need to. And there's one more. You and then one more. So in this last seat. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the accommodation, and thank you for my sponsors who got caught outside and made their way in here, so my witnesses, So to get started, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the committee, for the record, my name is Delegate Mike Griffith. I'm respectfully requesting a favorable report on HB 842, property tax exemption, property acquired by surviving spouse of a service member, repeal of time limitation. This bill makes a narrow and targeted change to existing law. Under current law, a surviving spouse of a service member who died in the line of duty may qualify for a property tax exemption on a dwelling house only if the home was either owned at the time of the service member's death or acquired within 2 years of that death. This bill simply repeals the 2 years acquisition requirement. Importantly, HB 842 does not create a new exemption or expand eligibility. The surviving spouse must still meet all existing requirements under current law. The bill simply removes the current 2-year deadline for acquiring a home. In many cases, housing decisions following the death of the service member are delayed due to financial hardship, relocation, caregiving responsibilities, or the timing of official casualty determinations. In some circumstances, service members were initially listed as missing in action and only later declared killed in action, which can make a strict purchase deadline difficult to meet. The sacrifice of a service member who dies in the line of duty is permanent. The support offered to the surviving spouse should not depend on whether or not a home was purchased within a fixed window of time. This exemption exists to provide long-term stability and recognition of that sacrifice. Now, we have had great conversations with our friends over at MACO. They came to us with an amendment to make it enabling for the counties, and we see that as favorable. We know a number of counties who are already excited to adopt this legislation if passed, and so I'm grateful for MACO's partnership and support with amendments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
My name is Linda Dolan. I'm the widow of Thomas Albert Dolan. I'll never forget the day the Army chaplain came to my place of employment, and in an instant, my world was turned upside down, and my life would never be the same. The necessary coldness of a telegram I received confirmed what the chaplain had told me, that my husband had gone on an aerial reconnaissance mission in enemy territory during wartime. His plane crashed and burned. His body was never recovered. I had a toddler and an infant to care for and didn't know how to separate my intense grief from giving the children the attention that they so rightfully deserved. In addition to that, I had been instructed to refrain from telling anyone of my husband's disappearance due to national security. I wasn't a machine. I was on serious overload and didn't know where to turn. I prayed that I was having a nightmare and I would just wake up and it would all go away, but it never did. Tom remained on a missing in action status for 7 years, and at that time, he was declared to be deceased in 1978. Tom's actual death occurred 5 days before his birthday, 3 days before our son Stephen's birthday, and on his brother's birthday. His sons grew up never having known their dad. Father's Day came and went. The financial struggle meant no vacations, no new clothes, no going out. My sons and I were entitled to free college education, but no one could tell me the name and location of the bill that would have softened the financial blow of my putting all 3 of us through college. Yes, I did get assistance, but it was not enough, and we were entitled to free education and did not get it. My youngest struggled seriously to pay for law school because I couldn't help him anymore. I'm 75 years old, and the window of my time on this earth has lessened. I have an illness that costs me $1,000 a month for the necessary supplements and doctor bills that insurance doesn't cover. Trying to gather the money to pay for property taxes is beyond difficult since I can no longer work, and I drive a 20-year-old car. The struggle never ends. I've had enough loss in my life, and as you can see, the pain is still there. All I'm asking is to be included in the property tax exemption. Hasn't the Dolan family given enough?
My name is Jeremiah Charles. I'm the son of Senior Airman Gilnor Charles, who died in the line of duty when I was 17 months old and my sister was 1 month old. I stand here representing the Gold Star children of Maryland. While we are often told our parents are heroes, the reality at home is often a quiet struggle. For a Gold Star child, our only parent is our entire world. But when that parent is buried under the red tape of complex benefit processes, which are often restrictive, which are often so restrictive, they find it impossible to navigate. Our families are left financially unstable. This bill, by removing the arbitrary 2-year limit, cuts through the tape. Financial stability isn't just about money, it's about mental health. Studies show that Gold Star children face significantly higher risks of depression and suicidal rates compared to their peers. When our surviving parent is exhausted by financial survival, they cannot focus on the intensive self-care required to raise a grieving child. A supported parent is a present parent, and a present parent is the best defense against the mental health crisis facing children like me. The 2-year limit on these tax benefits suggests that grief or financial need has an expiration date. It does not. By passing HB 842, you are moving beyond words of gratitude and providing tangible relief. You are telling Maryland's Gold Star children that we are seen and that our only parent deserves the breathing room to help us thrive, not just survive. I respectfully urge a favorable report on HB 842. Thank you for your time in honoring my father's memory through your action.
Good afternoon. I am Danielle Charles,
Gold Star wife and president of Gold Star Spouses of America, Harford County chapter. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board and committee. I'm Danielle Charles, and when my husband, Senior Airman Gilnoy Charles, passed away in 2011, I had a 17-month-old Jeremiah, and my daughter was 30 days old. And my fairy tale crashed beneath me. And I was handed, in the midst of my initial traumatic fog, a survivor's guide to benefits among a binder this big. And I said I wasn't going to share personal information like this, but it does make a difference. I signed more papers on the day that I was notified than I did signing for a house, to the point that I can't do paperwork without assistance, even though I can assist other people with their paperwork. When you're drowning in grief, you aren't reading booklets, you're just trying to survive to the next hour. We often talk about the military as being standard issue, the uniform, the boots, the rules, but Gold Star families don't come standard issue. Every family's grief is different. My family, like so many others, have unique factors that don't fit in a neat box. I have a little one that happens to have Down syndrome. I started this chapter 1 year ago out of the need. Because of what I went through, I didn't want to see other people go through. I've had every Gold Star wife that is testifying today come to me about different property issues, and there was a need factor. I have a little one that happens to have Down syndrome that's having surgery in 3 weeks. But it is that important because no one stood for me, that I stand for them. Only by chance did I find out about the property tax credit in time. Our Gold Star families, who soldiers paid the ultimate sacrifice, should not have to depend on some type of financial security by chance. I do believe that they are entitled to having the security of benefits that are placed there for them, and the intention of that benefit was not placed with a time limit that, hey, get over your grief and complete this form. A lot of the forms that were given, unfortunately, there are too many red flags attached to it and too many processes that still, even though we try to apply for them, we can't get through all of the red tape to benefit from the things that are presented to us. In Maryland, we have roughly 1.7 million owner-occupied properties that are taxed. There are approximately, right now, roughly 7,500 DIC Gold Star eligible individuals in our state. Even in an unlikely event that every single one of us becomes a homeowner, we would still only present 0.5%, not even 1%, of the owner-occupied properties that are taxed in this state. To have, even if we did get this benefit, every single one of us, that 0.5%, our husbands paid the ultimate sacrifice for. Governor Moore's Joint Forces Initiative was designed to make Maryland the state that serves those who serve. It focuses on housing security and ensuring no military family is left behind. By passing HB 842, you're cutting the limitations that are placed on us. By repealing this time, you are making it that you are actually putting your words to action, that our nation is grateful for our sacrifice. I thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, excuse me. Madam Chair, and members of the committee, Kevin Canale here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties in support of the bill with the aforementioned amendment. You have our written testimony. I very much appreciate the opportunity to be here today in support of these families, and I appreciate the delegate for working with us and accepting an amendment to make this doable across the state. We appreciate the tool. Like the delegate said, I think many counties would immediately adopt something like this, and we appreciate that flexibility. So again, happy to support the bill and ask for a favorable report with that amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, and on behalf of the entire committee, we extend our deepest condolences for you all and your families that have made the ultimate sacrifice. You being here means a lot to us, and the sacrifice of even sharing your grief and your pain. And this is legislation that we're absolutely going to take very, very seriously and work with Delegate Griffith on. I believe we've heard from this panel of witnesses. Any questions, Delegate Wims?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I echo what the chair said. My deepest condolences go to all of you, and thank you for your service. And thank you for bringing the bill, Delegate. The question I had, are there any other states that have already adopted this? And that's my only question.
That's a great question. 1 second. The answer is yes. Delaware, Texas, Virginia, just to name a few that have adopted this, as well as others.
Thank you, Delegate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions for this panel? Okay, thank you so much. I'll call up the next panel of witnesses. Thank you again for your time. I have Riva Yanto Boris, Mary Heath, Robert Brown, Jennifer Freeman, and Larry Parker, if there's a space up there. You can begin, anyone who wants to start.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Anita Fernandez Heath, the proud and grieving surviving spouse of CTN1 Jerry Lee Heath, who served our nation honorably in the United States Navy. The night of July 30th, 2018 is not just a date on a calendar to me. It's the night my world shattered. In a single devastating moment, I lost my husband, my partner, my best friend, and the father of our precious son. Jerry and I were married October 6th of 2012. We met in Augusta, Georgia, and built our life rooted in love, faith, service, and a shared purpose. We wore the uniform with pride and stood side by side through every challenge the military life placed before us. We believed we had time to watch our son grow, time to grow old together, time to fulfill dreams we planned so carefully. When Jerry passed away suddenly and unexpectedly, our son, Jerry Lee Heath Jr., was just 3 years old. At the age of 4, he was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder and autism spectrum disorder. As a widow and a mother, I had to quickly learn how to navigate not only grief, but also the complex world of specialists, therapies, and medical uncertainty. I relocated to Maryland so that my son could receive the critical care he needs, including access to research and treatment at Johns Hopkins, one of only 2 facilities in the nation offering a specialized support his condition requires. Every decision I make now is guided by love for my son and the promise I carry in my heart to honor his father's legacy. Jerry and I shared the dream of owning a farm, a place where our children could grow up surrounded by peace, stability, and the values we cherished. That dream did not die with him. I'm fighting to keep it alive. Yet the weight of property taxes places a heavy and constant burden on surviving spouses like me. We are not asking for a luxury. We are asking for the ability to survive, to provide, and to raise the children of our fallen heroes without being crushed by financial strain. Grief does not end, and the responsibility does not lessen. We shoulder them alone. The children of our fallen carry both the pride and the pain of their parents' service, and we, their surviving families, should not have to carry this burden alone. I humbly ask you to stand arm in arm with us so that No Gold Star widow feels forgotten, and no child of the fallen feels unseen. Let us be reminded that we are not alone, that the sacrifice of our hero was not in vain. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. It's my sincere hope that by sharing my story, I can help pave the way for meaningful change and a brighter, more secure future for other Gold Star families.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and distinguished members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this afternoon in support of House Bill 842 and to respectfully request a favorable report. My name is Bob Brown. I'm a 23-year United States Army veteran, a member of the American Legion and the Disabled American Veterans, the legislative officer for the Military Officers Association of America's Susquehanna chapter, and I proudly serve as the chair of the Hartford County Commission on Veterans Affairs. And I'll add that County Executive Bob Cashley did send in a letter of support. When I contacted the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation about this issue, they told me that I must be mistaken, that such a restriction did not seem right. But then when we went to the appeals board, again, we were told this doesn't seem right, but it's the law, and the law is the law until it's changed. And that's why we're here today. On this issue, Maryland is out of step with many other states. For example, Virginia and Delaware provide property tax exemptions for unmarried surviving spouses of service members who died on active duty without imposing an arbitrary limit on when a home must be purchased. Grief does not follow a statutory timeline. Governor Westmore recently stated that our military families sacrifice everything so their loved ones can serve, and states have a duty to meet that sacrifice with strong support. House Bill 842 does exactly that. Repealing this outdated time restriction is a modest but meaningful step that tells our Gold Star families, Maryland sees you, Maryland honors you, and Maryland stands with you, not on a deadline, but for a lifetime. On behalf of the veterans, military families, and the Gold Star community across Maryland, I respectfully urge a favorable report on House Bill 842, and thank you for your time, your leadership, and your continued support for those who have borne the cost of service.
Good afternoon. I am surviving spouse, Reva Giganto Burris, of Sergeant First Class Jeremy Burris, who served our nation honorably for 18 years. We have two children, Jericho and Mila, who are here with me today, who were 8 and 10 years old when their father passed away. Under current Maryland law, a surviving spouse must purchase and occupy a home within 2 years of the service member's death in order to qualify for the property tax exemption. When my husband died, I was not living in a home that we owned. Like many military families, we moved frequently due to PCS orders and never had the stability to purchase a permanent home during his service. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation began the process of helping our family secure a home in February of 2024, nearly a year after his death. It then took until March 2025 to locate and finalize a home for my children and I. By the time we were finally able to move into a stable residence in Cecil County, we were approaching the 2-year statutory deadline. In those 2 years, I was grieving the loss of my husband, raising 2 traumatized children due to my husband's death and due to my husband's PTSD and TBI, and navigating an ongoing probate litigation battle over an outdated will that predated marriage and children that has cost my family over $160,000. I was also left without my vehicle to use before we moved in due to litigation. I was not in a position emotionally or financially to immediately purchase a home within that narrow window. The 2-year requirement does not account for the realities of military life or the realities of grief. It assumes stability at a time when surviving families are anything but stable. House Bill 0842 would help correct this gap. It would acknowledge that military families often do not have home ownership at the time of death, and that surviving spouses need time to grieve, time to stabilize, and time to rebuild. This bill would give families like mine a fair opportunity to qualify for relief without being penalized by a timeline that does not reflect the hardship of our reality. For 18 years, our family lived in service to this nation. I'm asking that Maryland honor not only his sacrifice, but the life our children and I continue to carry forward without him. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and committee. My name is Larry Parker. I am the commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 577, which covers Baltimore County and Hartford County. We, the living Purple Heart recipients, are here today to support our comrades' families that have fallen for this country. I implore you to please look at the 7,500 families that we have in the state of Maryland and rescind or add to the current bill 842. It is only fair, and as Americans, this covers race, creed, color, religion. It covers all of us. Please assist our families. I thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Freeman. My husband, Jamil Freeman, gave his life on our daughter's birthday, August 11th, 2011. A day like so many that are here to say they will never forget. In hearing every story, it's always the same. You get the knock on the door, and it's nothing but heartache and tragedy, and a world is shattered, families broken. Two years in not having a home. If you, just like repeated statements, so many families are not living in one. We're just living base to base, paying rent on a military base. To try to gather up the strength every day after that heartache is something that is just painful in itself to do. To think to gather the strength to sign a paper, to get your children up, to get yourself up, is very unbearable. After my husband passed, it took a year to get myself together to do anything. To just be able to stay on base was a blessing in itself. To feel some kind of semblance, to have him around. It is so overwhelming to hear the same story, but to know it's the same is so heartbreaking. The grief never leaves. It is now 2026. My husband has been gone for years. And just to know that these stories continue breaks my heart every day. With passing this bill, it means so much. I also received a home from Tunnels to Tower in 2022. And to not have to worry about property tax would just be another burden that I don't have to worry about. To gather the money to pay. We were stationed in upstate New York, Fort Drum, and just to ask the question of what happens now on that day, no one else can answer but me. To do it all alone and not knowing those answers, not having the questions answered, is very difficult and hard, and this just lessens the burden on so many other families put in this position. It's just the fact that we have the time to take today to even be heard is still a blessing in itself. To lessen it for future widows and families to this day. A time limit should not exist because, as said before, grief does not have a time. Every day, I try to move on, and I do, but I never forget my husband. I never forget that day. And no one else will ever forget that day or pain. It is so sad to sit here and always hear the story, and it breaks my heart, and I can't help but cry. So I hope that this bill is really looked into and changed for future widows put in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you, each of you, for your testimony. On behalf of the committee, again, and the entire House, I really want to extend our condolences to you and your families for this ultimate sacrifice. And I want you to know that your presence here really does matter and the compelling testimony that we're hearing. And I know this is a bill that we're going to make sure that we take up and really take seriously. So thank you. Are there any questions for this panel of witnesses? Okay, seeing none, thank you again for your time. I am now going to call up the next few witnesses. We have Bill Montgomery, who is in person, and then we have two favorable witnesses who are virtual, Kashena Cross and Jason Spiegel. Is there anyone that is here favorable for this bill that I've missed? Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 842. My name is Colonel Bill Montgomery, U.S. Army retired. I'm a combat disabled veteran with over 30 years of service and now a councilman for the city of Aberdeen. I've seen the burden carried by military families, especially when a service member is lost in the line of duty. House Bill 842 removes the requirement that a surviving spouse must buy a home within 2 years to receive the property tax exemption. 2 years is simply not enough time for a grieving spouse to navigate casualty processes, estate issues, relocation, and just the emotional shock of losing a loved one. Families are often not advised not to make any major financial decisions until they regain stability. A benefit meant to honor the ultimate sacrifice should never be tied to an arbitrary deadline. This bill is bipartisan with broad support from Delegate Griffith and many, many co-sponsors, and it aligns with Governor's Maryland Joint Forces Initiative. The current rule leaves behind the very families who have endured the greatest loss. Legal precedent, Harford County versus Perry, shows that rigid timelines don't reflect the realities of military life or VA delays. House Bill 842 brings fairness and common sense to the law. As a councilman, I see firsthand keeping surviving spouses in our communities strengthens them. Forcing a major financial decision during grief does just the opposite. House Bill 842 is compassionate, bipartisan, and necessary. I respectfully urge a favorable report.
Thank you so much. Mr. Spiegel, you can proceed. Mr. Spiegel, if you're able to hear me, you can.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
No problem.
Jason Spiegel, President of the Maryland Military Coalition. I have nothing to add to the emotional and powerful testimony we've already heard, other than to say that we urge a favorable report on HB 842 and thank Delegate Griffith for undertaking this bill and sponsoring it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It looks like our final virtual witness is not there in the waiting room. So are there any questions for these two witnesses? All right, seeing no questions, I believe we've called all of the witnesses for House Bill 842, and having no additional questions or witnesses, this ends the hearing on House Bill 842. Thank you again, everyone who came to testify and share their grief and their stories with us. We take it seriously and look forward to working with Delegate Griffith on this legislation. Thank you. We'll now go into our next set of bills. Many of these bills are local bills and are sponsor only. We will start with Delegate Long, House Bill 791.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair, and my esteemed colleagues. Delegate Bob Long here to testify on, let me grab this here, HB 791. This bill actually started out as a Baltimore County delegation bill. Given the facts that the information we got back from Baltimore County, we still feel it was found unfavorable, but we still need to look into this. I've said this for the last couple of years. We need to look into how our assessments are done. Maryland has one of the highest foreclosure rates in the nation. That's scary. Give you an example, we're West Virginia, we're second double of West Virginia, and also Virginia is also, we're double Virginia. One of the things that was alarming to me is doing my research that there was a research study done showing that the taxes were a big hindrance with homeowners. I mean, you know, property taxes are, you know, some houses are probably almost as much as some of the mortgages. And that's why we brought this bill. And this bill was actually amended. And what this would do would create a study, something we need to look into. Just for instance, New Jersey program was just passed. Stay in New Jersey program. It's a new program starting 2026. Eligible for homeowners 65 and older can recover a credit of 50% of the property taxes, bills up to $6,500 benefit. There's also a senior freeze property tax reimbursement. States with similar programs as Stay in New Jersey is Wyoming and Colorado. The senior freeze is Texas, Tennessee, and Louisiana. And the senior citizens disabled deduction is Arkansas and Florida. You know, my 40 years in the real estate business, I know the governor's one of the things he wants to do is make affordable housing. One of the things that's really affecting affordable housing is because there's a lack of inventory. And the reason why people are not buying is because they can't afford it. And property taxes are a big issue. Anyway, that's what this bill is for a study. It was amended. You know, I feel very passionate about this. We need to make sure that we take a real hard look at these assessments and try to protect our homeowners.
Thank you, Delegate Long. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Okay, seeing none, that will end the testimony on House Bill 791. Thank you, sir. We're coming up on Weibel-Palooza here, I think. We're going to start off with House Bill 843, a Washington County delegation bill, a notice of tax sale alterations.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the Ways and Means Committee. I'm Delegate Weibel on behalf of the Washington County delegation. Pleased to present House Bill 843. The bill is a local bill and proposes to alter the manner in which tax sales are advertised, as well as imposing additional requirements on notices provided after the sale of the property. The language requires notice to be published 2 times in the newspaper versus 4, once per week and alternate weeks, and posting on the county's website 4 weeks prior to the sale. The language also requires the newspaper notice to include reference to the county's website and additionally requires the website to be updated weekly. Post-sale, the language requires that a second notice be sent within 15 days of the first notice, notifying the property owner that their property has been sold to satisfy unpaid property taxes. Currently, only 1 notice is sent post-sale. You have a letter of support from the Washington County delegation and the county treasurer. House Bill 1372 unanimously passed this committee in the 2025 legislative session and passed the House on a vote of 138-0. House Bill 843 is in the same posture as House Bill 1372, and we respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for the representative of the delegation? Yes, sir. Delegate Roberson.
Thank you. Delegate Weibel, did you say that the delegation did weigh in on this bill already?
Yes, you should have a letter.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, that ends the testimony on House Bill 843. We'll now move to House Bill 888, which is also a Washington County bill, property tax credit for disabled veterans, eligibility. Delegate Weibel.
Good afternoon. Again, for the record, I am Delegate Weibel on behalf of the Washington County delegation. Pleased to present House Bill 888. The statute authorizes the county to grant a property tax credit on legal residence of an honorably discharged disabled veteran or their surviving spouse. The bill itself is clarifying in nature as it deletes reference to active military, naval, or air service in the statute itself and instead refers to the uniformed services in the U.S. Code. The bill basically codifies current practice and is in the same posture as was done by the state of Maryland last legislative session for its references in state statute. The legislation has the support of the Washington County delegation, Washington County treasurer who advanced the bill, and the bill, it's the same bill that unanimously passed this committee last year and the House by a vote of 136-1 as House Bill 1333. And again, we respectfully request a favorable report.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions for the representative of Washington County? Okay, seeing none, that ends the testimony on House Bill 888. We'll move to another Washington County bill. This one also going to be testified by the wonderful Delegate Weibel, House Bill 1127. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Again, I'm pleased to present House Bill 1127, which alters the applicability of the homestead property tax credit in Washington County. House Bill 1127 would extend the homestead tax credit to all residences in Washington County, not just those that are utilized as the property owner's principal residence. As we've heard the speaker often mention, this year is about affordability. This legislation tackles that issue head on. Numerous bills are introduced in the legislature every year seeking to either cap or limit the amount that rents may increase in the state with the intent of making rents more affordable. Along with mortgage principal and interest payments, insurance, property taxes are a material component of rent and rent increases. This bill addresses an issue of fairness. How fair is it that two identical properties can be assessed at substantially different amounts, with one property's assessment increase being limited at 10% or lower, while the identical property enjoys a 40% increase? This bill looks to use and extends the same benefit that an owner-occupied resident is afforded to a home that is occupied by a renter. Property taxes are rendering our housing unaffordable. From Washington County's report of independent accountants for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025, it is reported that property taxes increased over the prior year due to an increase in assessed values, both real and personal property. The reassessment done for tax year beginning July 1, 2024, or fiscal year 25, raised property values in Washington County by 29.1%, 40.3% for residential, and 12.8% for commercial. Adding income and other miscellaneous taxes, Washington County's taxes increased by almost $23 million in total. In comparison, the overall statewide value increase for Group 2 residential properties was 12.7%. Again, Washington County's residential property assessments increased 40.3%. While property values for assessment purposes were raised 40.3% for residential properties, the average price of a home increased by only 4.1% in Washington County for fiscal year 25. Washington County experienced a $9.7 million surplus based on its audit report after investing an additional $14.6 million over fiscal year 24 in public safety, $10 million to the pension fund, and a transfer from the general fund to capital projects fund of $6.9 million. The fiscal note estimates that this bill could reduce county revenue collections anywhere from $613,000 to as high as $1.5 million, depending on the properties that qualify. That would still leave the county with a surplus in excess of $8.2 million to $9.1 million based on last year's audit, even after the transfers. For fiscal year '24, Washington County issued only 103 credits under the Renter's Tax Credit Program for a total credit amount of $49,000. Washington County is not alone, and this bill could easily be a statewide bill, as county property tax revenues statewide have seen an increase of $525 million from fiscal year '24 to '25, rising to $10.8 billion. This bill seeks reasonableness in the assessment cycle. The state's own publications assume that property taxes are paid by tenants. Is it fair that a tenant would bear the brunt of a 40.3% increase in assessment while an owner-occupied property is capped at 5% in Washington County? The Chamber of Commerce, in its 2025 Competitiveness Red Book, Maryland dropped an additional ranking, falling from 45th to 46th in business tax climate, and Maryland is ranked as the 5th most expensive state in which to reside. Some also rank Maryland as having the highest in utility bills. This high tax burden is also reflected by the Comptroller's net migration report, which reported a net loss of 300,000 residents. This bill attempts to apply a reasonable and fair approach to those increases for residents. Assessments will still increase under this proposed legislation, and contrary to claims, Washington County will still experience healthy increases in their property tax revenues as they ultimately set the cap. For these reasons, I thank you and ask for a favorable report on House Bill 1127.
Thank you very much, Delegate. Are there any questions on this bill? Okay, seeing none, that will end the testimony in House Bill 1127. I thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, we have House Bill 889, Wacomico County Delegation Bill, to be presented by Delegate Adams. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee. For the record, Delegate Chris Adams, Chair of the Wacomico County Delegation, here to present House Bill 889. House Bill 889 is titled Wacomico County Property Tax Credit Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Services Incorporated. SNHS is a 30-year-plus organization in Wacomico County that remodels, rehabs 1 to 3 properties per year. This bill would align our county with the city of Salisbury in offering a tax deferral for projects where Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Services is purchasing and then remodeling for the purpose of resale of these properties. So in lieu of giving you lengthy testimony, let me just say that this is a local courtesy bill for which you have a unanimous vote of the delegation. And we believe we are helping this organization do the same thing as Habitat for Humanity is doing in Wacomico County. And we are just tagging Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Services along with Habitat for Humanity for good rehab projects in our area. Would thank you for a favorable report.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the representative? All right, Delegate, thank you very much for your time. This concludes the hearing on House Bill 889. I'm looking for Delegate Fisher, if he's around.
No, Delegate Long. Is it Calvert County?
No, I'm up to Delegate Fisher. I have him as presenting the bill, Delegate Fisher. Delegate Long, you're not here to present the delegate. I didn't think so. Okay. So we'll move down. No, please no. Is that what you're saying? Thank you. Okay, so Delegate Hannibal, I think then we'll move to you on House Bill 1193. No, sorry. Yeah, we were asking you because my seatmate here was saying, Calvert County. Okay, so Delegate, you're in the right place, and it's House Bill 1193. No witnesses, just you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 1193 for your consideration this afternoon. For the record, I'm Delegate Jim Heinbaugh. I represent District 1A, which includes all of Garrett County and the western part of Allegheny County. Before I talk about the specifics of the bill, I'd like to just give you a little background real quickly about why I filed the bill. In the fall of 2024, the Department of Natural Resources bought a privately owned business called Savage River Lodge.
that their facilities consisted of, it was 42 acres surrounded by 700 acres of Savage River State Forest. It included 18 log cabins, 8 luxury yurts, large lodge and conference center, large long home that the owners lived in, and several miles of hiking, biking, cross-country skiing trails. That property is now called the Savage Highlands State Park. The previous owners of the property, private owners, paid both property taxes to the county, about $60,000 a year, and an 8% accommodations tax that the county charges on short-term vacation rentals. That amounted to about $90,000 a year. So in total, when DNR bought the property, the county lost about $150,000 a year in annual revenue. What this bill would do, this bill 1193, it would require DNR to collect and pay the county's accommodation tax of 8%. Just like every other vacation rental business in the county does. According to DLS fiscal note, the county would generate, when fully implemented, about $64,000 a year in revenue. That amounts to about 43% of the total revenue the county was getting before DNR bought the property. And while that isn't a lot of money down here, in Garrett County, where they struggle financially sometimes, that's a significant chunk of money. And it's important too, with the county picking up more expenses, that they look for other sources of revenue, just like the state is doing. In this case, I don't personally consider this, it's not a new tax, it's an existing county tax. The tax was paid by the previous owners. So I know DNR, I think, has submitted testimony against the bill. From what I remember, there were two major points they had. One was that the additional tax, the 8% tax, will strain the facilities pricing model and reduce affordability, and I'll talk about that in a minute. It also argues that DNR already gives the county about $1.7 million a year in revenue and something called revenue equity payments. We call that a pilot. Several years ago, Senator George Edwards, I got a bill passed that would require the state to pay some kind of tax on the 90,000 acres of property they own in Garrett County. So the issue was the state owned 90,000 acres. It wasn't taxable, and the county was generating no revenue from it. So the fact, in my opinion, the fact that the county's getting $1.7 million in pilot payments on the 90,000 acres of land is kind of immaterial. The cabins and yurts, when they were privately owned, were rented for about $300 a night. DNR plans to rent them for about $150 a night, and their intent is to improve public access and availability. And I applaud that. I think that's a great initiative. I'd like to see more people be able to afford to go, and it's a beautiful facility. The cabins are beautiful, the lodge is beautiful. But an 8% tax on $150 is $12. I don't believe a $12 charge is going to discourage anyone from renting a cabin or a yurt, and I can't see how $12 a night is going to blow up the DNR pricing model. So in addition to allowing the county to recover some of the lost revenue associated with the state's purchase of Savage River Lodge, this bill helps provide a level playing field between other businesses in the county that have short-term vacation rentals in the state. I don't personally see any reason for the state to have a competitive advantage over the private sector when it comes to the rental of these accommodations. The bill would requires it's effective July 1st of this year. I'd be willing to amend the bill to make it effective 1 July of next year to give DNR time to get up and running and get their customer base established. I should mention I filed essentially the same bill last session, House Bill 1277. It passed in the House 134-2. Unfortunately, the Senate bill was, my opinion, pulled prematurely by the sponsor in the Senate, and the House bill wasn't approved by the Senate. So that pretty well sums things up. In closing, I respectfully ask for the committee's favorable consideration of House Bill 1193, and I thank you for the opportunity and for your attention and consideration. This concludes my presentation. Subject to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Delegate Hannibal. Are there any questions from, yes, I see one from Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Most happy to.
So thanks for presenting the bill. So just for clarification, one of the Department of Natural Resources, a Maryland entity, is saying that taxes make Maryland unaffordable? Is that what this is saying?
They're saying that the 8% accommodations tax or $12 a night will make it unaffordable. And you know, if I could, the worst part about this whole thing for me is that when DNR first considered buying Savage River Lodge, I supported the state's purchase of the lodge, and it wasn't a popular thing to do locally. In our neighborhood, people don't particularly want the state to buy more real estate and take it off the private market. And I was a little disappointed, quite frankly, that I supported the purchase. Now, not the price, but I supported the purchase by the state, and I took a little heat over it. And I think all I'm asking for is something that's fair, and DNR is opposed to it. So
it was kind of a rhetorical question. I mean, I just find it interesting that we're saying that taxing something makes it unaffordable if it's already discounted 50% of where it was previously rented for in the private market, but isn't that so? Thank you.
I understand where you come from. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, such as it is, Delegate Hartman. Appreciate that. Rhetoric. All right, Delegate Wims, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for bringing the bill. I do remember this from last year. I wanted to follow up with what you said about what happened in the Senate. Do you have a cross-file this session in the Senate?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that. It was cross-file is Senate Bill 209, and they've already had the hearing for that. I think it was a week ago. Senator McCabe was
Mr. McCabe, okay. Thank you very much for bringing the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Wims, and Delegate Roberson, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And unlike Delegate Wims, I don't recall this bill from last year. Do you, if you might not have it, I'm sorry, I apologize, I can't find it. If you know the previous bill number from last year?
Yes, it was 1277, I think.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'll confirm that, but I'm pretty sure it was 1277.
Thank you, Delegate.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for this delegate who is testifying this bill on behalf of his? Nope. Sir, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'd like to get the vowel long because they always turn mine long, and it's not, and yours is. Thank you, Hannibal and Ebersol. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, well, we will back down the list a little bit for the newly arrived Delegate Fisher, who's going to read Calvert County Property Tax Tobacco Barns.
Yes, indeed.
House Bill 1095.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Mark Fisher. And before you is House Bill 1095, Calvert County Property Tax Credit Tobacco Barns. The bill authorizes the Calvert County to grant by law a property tax credit for the county property tax imposed on real property that was formerly used solely as a tobacco barn if the real property is located on land that is subject to tobacco buyout agreement or is located on land that qualifies for an agricultural use assessment and is used in connection with activity that is recognized by the State Department of Assessments and Taxation as an approved agricultural activity. It's a very straightforward bill. The county wants to have the actual tobacco barns preserved for that would be certainly understandable. Occasionally, properties do transfer, and so all the more reason to want to keep them that way. It's a county bill. The county commissioners support this bill overwhelmingly. I just talked to my very good friend, Delegate Long, that's right here. He's patiently waiting. He now supports the bill as well, which only because, there have been a lot of discussion about a lot of different bills and so forth. So I'm very happy to report that. and we'll modify our support letter accordingly. So we have a big kumbaya moment, which is a really good thing. Groundbreaking, as he said, and he's correct. And that's it for my testimony. Yes, sir.
House Bill 1095, testimony unless there are questions. County Bill also payment in lieu of taxes, agreements, and emergency services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, before you is House Bill 1208. For the record, Delegate Mark Fisher presenting Calvert County Payment in lieu of Taxes Agreement, Emergency Services. The Calvert County Emergency Services Program, which includes a very large umbrella, is under a lot of changes, as you can imagine, and discussion that's ongoing. As a consequence, the county commissioners decided that they would like to withdraw this bill for this year, as they themselves are having discussions in the county as we speak about this and other matters.
So that testimony is complete, I take
Yes,
it.
sir.
Then.
But I'm happy to take any questions.
No, I don't think we're even going to allow that. House Bill 1208. Thank you. The testimony is complete on that. I will call next Delegate Long, Jay Long, if you will, House Bill 1096.
Great afternoon, my friends on the House Ways and Means Committee. For the record, I am Delegate Jeffrey E. Long, Jr., here presenting House Bill 1096, which is property tax credit notice through property tax bill. You have my written testimony, but let me just allow me to explain to you the premise as to why I am introducing this bill. We understand that there is a state homestead tax credit that's offered that most Marylanders are aware of. However, there are many of our residents in various jurisdictions, Montgomery, Prince George's, Calvert, Anne Arundel, Charles, wherever, and that may fall within a certain category that they could be eligible for a property tax credit or something that they could apply for, but they're just simply unaware. All this bill seeks to do is require that when their property tax bill is sent to them, that they are notified of what they're eligible for. Now, I must confess that there may be some drafting errors that we could work together with in the form of an amendment to ensure that if it's no more than just having the property tax assessment office for each county simply list a website that residents can go to and say, you are eligible for more tax credits, I am willing to concede to that as well too. But all I want is for every resident to be aware of what they are perhaps leaving on the table. I've seen Mako's testimony. It's shocking that they're opposed. But what I will say is, I don't believe that this is burdensome when a resident is eligible for a tax credit and just not being notified of it, and they're not aware. And so I believe this is a very good common sense bill during these fiscally trying times, and I will urge this committee's favorable report for HB 1096. And I've got my friend here who's always on my right hand with these great good bills, and thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is William Steinwittle. I'm the Deputy Advocacy Director for Homeownership Preservation at the Maryland Legal Aid Bureau, and we testify in strong support of House Bill 1096. So the Maryland Homeowners Property Tax Credit is available for anyone who earns less than $60,000 per year. All they have to do is submit the property tax credit application plus their tax return for that calendar year. If they do that, they are eligible for a credit. In some circumstances, it covers the entire amount that their property taxes are owed. In addition, homeowners over 70 years of age are eligible for retroactive property tax credits going back 3 years if they have failed to apply in previous years. Unfortunately, however, a lot of our client base sometimes is not aware or sometimes forgets that they have to apply. Because unlike the homestead tax credit, a person has to apply for the homeowner's tax credit every single year. If they fail to do so, then they do not get the credit. So it is very important that they are made aware of this. We do our part at Maryland Legal Aid by sending out a letter to all former and current clients that are homeowners, reminding them of the credit and providing an application so that they can apply for the credit. Unfortunately, that is not a very, very small percentage of the Maryland homeowners that are eligible for the credit every year. one case, I represented a homeowner, and we were able to get her entire possession of the house due to a fraud committed by the mortgage company for $30,000 in 2018. However, I am scared every year that this elderly client is going to forget to apply for her property tax credits, and the property that we worked so hard to get her possession of is going to go in the tax sale. So I make sure to send her the property tax credit application every year. But I'm sure she is not the only homeowner in this state who may face this issue in the future. So for those reasons, we support what Delegate Long is trying to do and provide notice in the property tax bills and testify in strong support of House Bill 1096.
Thank you very much for that testimony. And we have, are there any questions, this panel? We have one additional testimony. Kevin Canali, please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Kevin Canali here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties. In opposition to the bill, you do have my written testimony. I'm encouraged by the comments from the sponsor. I think after hearing the testimony, we can get there. But counties oppose this bill because we can't do it. Counties don't have access to income, age, veteran status, any of the things that you would need to really try and prescript for each taxpayer the benefits that they may be eligible for. That would be something that the State Department of Assessments and Taxation would have that information. We could send out a big sheet of all the credits that someone may be eligible for, but I think that might be confusing and would lead to more calls to the finance offices and asking about credits. That's also an option for people to call. I think every county on a property tax bill has their website listed. If the committee wants to add some more clarity in terms of what that needs to say, I think counties would be willing to do that. But we don't have the information we would need to tailor benefits on tax bills to each individual taxpayer. I wish that we did, but we don't. SSTAT would have that information. So we're not opposed to making sure that people know the kind of benefits they're eligible for. In fact, counties, again, provide a lot of that information in tax bills. We've also supported the tax sale ombudsman through SSTAT to make sure that people have access to resources and they don't go into tax sale when appropriate. So for those reasons, we're opposed to the bill, but I'm happy to work with the sponsor and the committee to try and find a way to get a middle ground without confusing people and making sure that people get the information that they need and that is useful for them when they're getting their tax bill. So with that, I'm happy to take questions, and we'd urge an unfavorable report, but again, I'm happy to work with the committee to find a way forward.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions regarding House Bill 1096? And I appreciate the fact that you offered the willingness to work with this legislation.
Absolutely.
If not, this concludes the hearing for House Bill 1096. Thank you, Delegate Long. Up next is House Bill 826, Delegate Matt Morgan, Property Tax Residential Real Property Moratorium on Assessment Increases. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt Morgan here to present House Bill 826. As the Chair just mentioned, is a moratorium on assessment increases. Let's be frank, we all know where property values have gone the last 5 years, 6 years. They've skyrocketed, and when they have skyrocketed, so has the assessments. And what this bill does is to try to bring some affordability to what has been everly increasing in the state of Maryland by putting assessments on a 3-year moratorium for increasing. And the reason for this is if you're a person that buys a house and you're strapped for cash, just because your house increases 20% doesn't mean you necessarily have the money or the pay for the increase in property tax assessment. We talk about affordability. This bill actually brings it here. Now, it does make some exceptions. If a homeowner improves their property, well, guess what? It does get reassessed. If you improve your property through like new construction, you're going to have to get reassessed. But for everybody else, including investors, because they're getting hammered too, and rental prices have been skyrocketing, this puts a moratorium in place for 3 years. So we can try to actually make Maryland a little bit more affordable. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the legislation or the underlying policy.
All right, thank you. Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hey, how are you doing?
Thank you for bringing the bill. So
You're welcome.
we have a moratorium for 3 years. Especially, I can see where a homeowner may be protected because when this kicks in the next time, they'd be protected by the 10% cap, although they'll probably be maxing that 10% cap out more likely. But for an investor, they're going to get hit with this in 3 years. So they might go from XY bill to XYZ bill and get like stunned after, because all you're doing is skipping 3 years of increase.
So, yes, the bill puts out a 3-year moratorium, but who's to say what happens 3 years from now? I mean, we are the General Assembly. We can easily come back and maybe, I don't know, put a cap on the rate of the increase or cut taxes. The fiscal note is very clear. It talks about decreases and money paying from the general fund to pay for some of the GO bonds. And one thing the fiscal note doesn't talk about is actually cutting spending. So it misses option 3.
Okay.
Thank you.
I wouldn't mind a 3-year moratorium, but thank you for bringing the bill.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Always
seeing
good to see you, Madam Chair.
Good to see you. Thank you. That ends the bill hearing on House Bill 826. Next bill, Delegate Spiegel, House Bill 1088. And you have 4 people signed up for this bill. Okay, the first one is favorable with amendment, so you go ahead. Actually, no. You have Justin Fiore, Kevin Canali, Sharon Disk,
Yep.
and is Brian Anlou here? Okay. All right, go ahead, please proceed.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Ryan Spiegel for House Bill 1088. I introduced this bill on behalf of the great municipality of Gaithersburg, which is in my district, to address an odd inconsistency in our state tax law. Under the current law, a local government may appeal a property assessment only once every 3 years under Maryland's triennial assessment cycle. Meanwhile, any taxpayer, whether it's an individual or a corporate entity, can appeal an assessment in each taxable year. So HB 1088 allows a county or municipal government to file a petition for review of the value of commercial real property during the years between that 3-year cycle, just as taxpayers can already do, but it does so only for commercial properties and only in cases where there's clear evidence that an assessment is significantly out of date, such as public records of an actual recent sales price driven by market forces. This is a narrowly tailored solution to address some of the headline-grabbing instances of unfairness, such as a recent mid-cycle sale of a commercial property in Gaithersburg on the open market for about $150 million, just 6 months after it had been assessed at the start of its new triennial assessment period for only $75 million. It was now worth double. Under existing law, the city of Gaithersburg, which, like pretty much every city, relies primarily on property tax revenue to fund government programs and services, has no recourse to ensure that the new owner pays property taxes on the actual market value of that property until the end of that 3-year cycle. So the owner essentially gets a free ride on that extra $75 million in value. This legislation, importantly, does not alter tax rates. It does not expand taxing authority or change the structure of Maryland's assessment system. It simply creates a limited mechanism to correct clearly inaccurate valuations when market conditions have materially shifted. And again, it only applies to commercial property. Now, importantly, the bill includes a 20% minimum increased value threshold, which means that a local government can petition for mid-cycle review only when a sale price is at least 20% higher than the last assessed value. That 20% trigger is an objective guardrail, and it ensures that this authority is used only in exceptional cases where there is strong evidence that the existing assessment may be materially out of step with market reality. And it prevents any floodgate concerns over routine or minor out-of-cycle appeals by local governments. There was a drafting error in the original bill, and we have a sponsor amendment before you that clarifies that the 20% threshold is keyed to a commercial property's last assessment, not its last sale price. And this would impact, we think, far fewer properties and transactions, so we believe this should allay some of the concerns raised in written opposition testimony. When assessments lag significantly behind real market value, the result is a distortion in the local tax base. When a commercial property is significantly underassessed, the obligation to fund core services doesn't disappear. It shifts. The burden moves on to residents, small businesses, and other property owners. Accurate commercial assessments are critical to funding public safety, transportation infrastructure, housing initiatives, community development, and other local government efforts. Local governments are closest to the on-the-ground development activity as well. They see sales, they see new construction, major leases, and market shifts all in real time. House Bill 1088 allows counties and municipalities to bring that information into the assessment process in a responsible and limited way. And the ability of local governments to bring mid-cycle petitions also ensures that other levels of government receive their fair share of property taxes on those commercial properties that are subject to the law, based on more accurate assessments. After all, a successful petition by a municipality should benefit the property tax revenues of the county and the state where the property is located as well. The 20% threshold preserves the predictability and integrity of Maryland's triennial assessment cycle while providing municipalities and counties with a narrowly tailored tool to address only the most significant discrepancies. So we think this bill strikes the right balance between stability and fairness. I will also note it's been cross-filed by Senator King in the Senate. I respectfully request a favorable report. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharon Disk. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the City of Gaithersburg, and I'm here in support of HB 1088 with Delegate Spiegel's amendments. In my several decades of experience working with new and expanding employers, I routinely prepare estimates of future tax revenue. The estimates shape decisions related to incentive packages, land use, infrastructure investment, and community impact. In 2016, a developer acquired 800 North Frederick Avenue in Gaithersburg, an aging IBM property, with intentions to demolish the existing building and replace it with a distribution center purpose-built for and leased to FedEx Ground. By 2018, the developer had completed the building. FedEx Ground was in. The property was assessed at $68.2 million. It sold that year for $134.4 million. That's $66 million more than the assessed value. By 2023, 5 years later, the $133.5 million assessment was nearly level with the sales price. Right now, a local jurisdiction can only challenge assessed values during the relevant triennial review, meaning once every 3 years, but a commercial property owner can appeal in any year of the cycle, and they do, as evidenced by the high number of appeals. If a commercial property sells for more than its assessed value, the assessment is not adjusted upward until the next triennial. Nearly all the tax parcels in Gaithersburg are reassessed in one cycle. This bill gives cities and counties a narrow path to keep commercial property assessments fair and aligned with real-world market conditions when there is clear evidence that an assessment differs significantly from market value. For these reasons, I respectfully urge a favorable report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Justin Fiore here on behalf of the Maryland Municipal League in support of House Bill 1088. I think at its core, property taxes are a social contract. You have property owners based on their property value, and in exchange for that, local governments provide essential and quality of life services that ultimately enhance that very value. Now, in Maryland, it's every 3 years that social contract is reviewed or reassessed, you might say. And I think to the sponsor's point, It's not just about making the pie bigger, it's a matter of equity and making sure people are paying their fair share of taxes to support those very services. Now, at the crux of House Bill 1088, at least in my opinion, is why off-cycle assessments are so important. I think as mentioned here, there are currently 5 scenarios in which a property can be reviewed off-cycle, so off of its 3-year schedule. 2 of them are automatic, 3 are at the request of the owner. So in cases where newly permitted improvements add at least $100,000 to the property, that's an automatic reassessment. If a property is subdivided, that's an automatic reassessment. But in cases where there's a change in use or character, or a change in the zoning, or if the sale price is lower than the assessed value, the property owner has the right to ask for a reassessment off-cycle. We think this bill adds a common sense 6th solution to that off-cycle kind of schedule. And for those reasons, we would request a favorable report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Kevin Canale here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties in strong support of the bill. You do have my written testimony. I think a lot of the points have been made. I'll just say that, we ask our local governments to do a lot of things. County governments fund schools, public safety, public health. All of these things are getting more and more expensive by the day. When people are not paying their fair share, it ends up on the backs of people who cannot afford it. And so this is a very common sense bill. As you've heard, property taxpayers, commercial owners have a lot of tools in their toolbox to make these appeals, and they do appeal a lot. And we've heard about that in this committee multiple times over the past few years. Counties don't have that tool in the bag. This is a very limited instance. We're not asking for the same treatment as a commercial taxpayer, only in very limited circumstances where it's obvious that someone is not paying their fair share, that a building has been underassessed, and we shouldn't let that go on and on because it just adds up. And again, more of that burden falls onto backs of people who cannot afford to pay their taxes. So this is about fairness. This is not opening the floodgates, as the delegate said. This is very limited instances where there is obvious evidence that a building is underassessed, and actually severely underassessed based upon the bill. So with that, we'd ask for a favorable report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for this panel of witnesses? Delegate Buckle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate the intent of it, but I just did 10 minutes worth of research on the interwebs. And it appears that there's an awful lot of commercial properties in Montgomery County that are selling at significant discounts. So one Rockville Center, one Metro Square in Rockville, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. Didn't that just sell a couple of years ago at a massive loss? Like Brookfield put it on the market, and I think from what it's saying is that it sold for less than 50% of what they bought it for.
Thank you for the question, Delegate. I don't have my interwebs handy right now to look
Always
up
have
that
the
particular
interwebs handy, Delegate Spiegel.
that particular commercial property. And look, properties go up, they go down in value. If property goes down in value, our bill should not impact, whatever rights a property owner has to address that. It has nothing to do with that.
But you still got the money. So like Collegeville, you guys know what the Collegeville buildings are? Collegeville, you guys are I'm just looking them up. Collegeville buildings, June 2025, 2 office buildings sold for 81% less than their office price. Gaithersburg, Maryland, the Montgomery Executive Center, August 24, sold for a 34% discount from its 2018 purchase price. And so the people who own those buildings, they paid the property tax the year before based on what you thought it was worth or SDOT thought it was worth, and it turned out the market's like it isn't worth anything close to that. But you can't get the taxes back for what you already paid. Maybe the new property owner can come in and say, hey, you thought this building was worth $50 million, but I just bought it for 25. It's really only worth 25 in the real world, not the SDOT world. But the guy who had it the year before, he paid property taxes on it, assessed it above its purchase price. He has no mechanism. The government's not going to give him his money back. So my concern is that if we let the government come in every year and say, I think it's worth more, I think we should let the property owners come in every year and said, I can prove to you that it was worth less than you made me pay last year. You owe me a refund. Is that fair?
My understanding is that existing law already allows that property owner to do that, and that they do.
It allows a new property owner, but it doesn't allow the old property owner.
I think it does.
Can you say, so an old property owner can say, because I sold it, I paid you for 3 years and I can get the money back.
You're talking about back taxes as opposed to challenging in a particular year.
I'm talking about for 2023,
about that.
2024, and 2025, I paid you because you told me it was worth $100 million. In 2026, I put it on the market. Ain't nobody paying $100 million for it. They paid me $50 million. I've already paid you the taxes at the prior assessment. Can I get those back?
I don't believe you could get back taxes
Correct.
refunded, but the property owner.
The new property owner.
The previous property owner would have had the ability to appeal the value every year and could have had that value reduced if they had been successful.
I understand that. The property owner can appeal every year, but the evidence would be different based upon, now my evidence is I put the property out in the real market and it actually sold. When I go before the Property Tax Appeals Board, before PTAB, and I say, you told me it was $100 million, I think it's worth $50 million, they don't win very often because they're like, well, you have to show me all these different things. When I go in after the sale and say, I told you it was worth $50 million, here's my proof, I put it on the open market, it only sold for $50 million, can I get my money back for the last 3 years that I paid the city, the county at $100 million? The answer is absolutely not. That money's gone in the wind. And so to me, what's fair is fair. If you can say, hey, when you sell it, it's worth more money, so we need to immediately reassess it, somebody, when they take a loss on it, should be able to get a refund if we're just basing it on the market. You don't think that's fair?
It's the committee's will if the committee wants to amend the bill that way.
That's a good partner of Thompson, Hine, and Flory. Thank you, Delegate. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the question.
Any other questions for this panel of witnesses? All right, seeing none, we do have one witness here testifying in opposition. Mr. Anlou, come on up. Also, I just wanted to say I'm shocked that Delegate Buckle was on the interwebs. I see you do know how to use the internet.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Brian Anley with the Apartment and Office Building Association of Metro Washington. AOBA represents multifamily and commercial building owners in Montgomery and Prince George's County. And I do want to say I appreciate the city of Gaithersburg for having a discussion with me about this bill before it was introduced. Unfortunately, we do have to oppose it because it would insert additional risk into the commercial financing and commercial underwriting process. In my testimony is a hypothetical example that quantifies this risk. In short, a mid-cycle assessment that raises the assessed value by 20% or more would result in hundreds of thousands in increased property taxes. This may seem like a small amount, but because of underwriting guidelines, it would force buyers to either bring millions more to the table, increase equity from investors, or walk away from the transaction altogether. Montgomery and Prince George's counties have already seen a large drop in commercial property transactions due to their regulatory environment. This decrease has cost the county and state millions in transfer and recordation taxes that are used to fund school construction and transportation projects and affordable housing development. Commercial financing remains tight due to high interest rates and uncertainty over the economy. So even a few $1 million makes a big difference. This bill will only make commercial transactions less attractive statewide. I'm happy to touch on how appeals and renovations are different if the committee has questions, but in short, appeals, commercial properties are valued based on how much income they make. So if a commercial property owner appeals, that means they didn't make the expected income and the value of the property is less, as Delegate Buckle noted, and is therefore worth less. And so for these reasons, I respectfully urge an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, thank you for your time. That ends the bill hearing on House Bill 1088. Next up, Delegate Lewis, thank you for your patience. House Bill 1110, Judicial In Rem Tax Foreclosure Notice Requirements. You have 3 people signed up on this bill. I have Joseph Kirshner, Nina Themelis, and Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair. Oh, good to be with you. I'm Delegate Robin Lewis, here on behalf of House Bill 1110, judicial in rem tax foreclosure notice requirements. This bill was requested on behalf of the Baltimore City Administration. And with that, if it's appropriate, I will hand over the testimony to the panel, and I will depart. Is that okay? Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone. They're awesome. You don't even need me. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Nina Themelis, Director of Government Relations for Mayor Scott in Baltimore City, here to testify in support of House Bill 1110. This bill would make one simple change to our existing law for in rem tax foreclosure. The existing law states that there's a certain notice that needs to be provided within 5 days. All we're asking is replacing that language with referring to the notice provisions as provided by the Maryland rules, which is also 5 days. Why would we need this, given that therefore the same timeline? It's for two basic reasons. The first being that there is another in rem process that we refer to colloquially as in rem 2 that was passed by the General Assembly a few years ago, and that legislation includes the language to reference the Maryland rules, so we're looking to align the language across both in rem processes, and also just to provide future flexibility for the city in case Maryland rules changes to make sure that the process for in rem 1 and in rem 2 are at the same timeline, and that there's no difference between the two, as we want to make sure that those processes run very smoothly with one another. In rem tax foreclosure is one of the processes that the city uses in order to reduce the number of vacant properties in Baltimore City. In just the past about 5 years, we've reduced the total number of vacant properties from hovering above 16,000 for about 2 decades to just yesterday being at 11,969 properties. So this process is one that we use frequently. It's one of the tools in the toolbox, so to speak, for the city. And as the sponsor said, we have Joe Kirshner from the Department of Housing and Community Development here to provide a little bit more detail on the process, and I urge a favorable report on House Bill 1110. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Joseph Kirshner. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for the Development Division Legal Section at Baltimore City DHCD. As Nina said, we use this tool to address vacant and abandoned properties in the city. Currently, if the owners, before we can file a case, we have to send them notice that we're planning to file a case if they don't pay within 30 days. We also have to send this 5-day mailing at 2 ways, certified mail and regular mail. The Maryland rules also require that we post the property. And then the Baltimore City Code requires a court summons, which we serve process on each defendant in the case. And that can be up to 3 certified restricted return receipt mailings. And additionally, publication for 3 consecutive weeks. So I guess the point is there's a lot of service. And eventually what we want to do is kind of look and see if there are any redundancies that we can address. And so this change would give a little more flexibility. We wouldn't have to come back if we did that. We have filed now over 1,000 cases. Last I counted, it was 1,060. We've completed roughly 750 cases. And we want to accelerate what we're doing. And you know, any change that can help remove some friction without hurting due process, we hope to explore.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Odette Ramos. I'm the City Councilwoman for Baltimore City's 14th District. I came before this committee several years ago, not as the Councilwoman, but as one of the lead advocates to make sure that every jurisdiction had the opportunity to utilize in rem tax sale foreclosure to address vacant and abandoned properties. When the liens get higher than the value of the vacant property or lot, the jurisdiction can foreclose. Baltimore City is the first to implement that. Obviously, when I became a council person, we really tried to accelerate this work. We have really, I think, started to look at what are the requirements that are needed and any changes that need to be made, because we've implemented this now for the last almost 4 years. And so it's a very exciting opportunity. The time of acquisition is very short. It can be anywhere from 6 to 8 months. And as was stated earlier, we've already acquired about a little over 730 vacant and abandoned properties or lots in this way, and we want to accelerate. So any little tweaks to the process is going to be helpful for us, but also aligning with the Maryland rules is going to be helpful simply because so that we're consistent in all of our service and all of our notices, et cetera. So I look forward to talking with you more about our successes with INREM. It's very exciting for me to come back before you all as the councilwoman to talk about how successful this has been, and I hope that more jurisdictions go ahead and implement INREM for their addressing vacant properties. We're really, I think, doing great, and we have a lot more to go. Your help would be very appreciated to make sure that we can do that. So I urge a favorable report, and thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much to this panel. Question from Delegate Buckle.
I had a question. I've done tax sale stuff with Councilwoman Ramos before she was ever a councilwoman.
Yes.
We were on a task force together. This seems to me to actually make a lot of sense, and I just wanted to confirm. So you're going to be serving the judicial in-rem foreclosure complaint consistent with the Maryland rules, which ensures that a court, these things go to circuit court, and before they do anything, they're going to say, hey, the defendants and the interested parties all got notice in accordance with the Maryland rules. They got actual notice. If they chose not to be here, that's on them, just like anybody in any other kind of proceeding. Is that fair?
I think it's fair, and in fact, what we need at the end of this process is marketable title. So it's not just us, it's the title industry behind us.
The interested parties,
Yes.
and everybody is going to sit there and say, hey, I got a copy of the complaint, I had an opportunity, you verified to the circuit court satisfaction that people had actual notice and time to respond pursuant to the Maryland rules, and that's really all we should require.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this bill? All right, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on
Thank you
House
so
Bill
much.
1110. Thank you. Okay, the final bill of the day is my bill, House Bill 1142, Task Force to Modernize County and Municipal Revenue Structures. My sponsor panel, I'll just call up and then hand it over to the Vice Chair, Teresa Coons, Talisha Searcy, Mark Conaway, MC Keeger Ayer, and Mayor Todd Knock.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and my esteemed colleagues on the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, I am Delegate Janelle Wilkins, and I'm pleased to present House Bill 1142, Task Force to Modernize County and Municipal Revenue Structures. This bill seeks to review, modernize, and address the financial foundation of our local governments. Maryland's county and municipal revenue structures have not been meaningfully updated since 1966. Since then, Maryland has transformed into a global leader in tech, healthcare, entertainment, and so many other industries. Yet the financial foundation of our counties and municipalities has remained frozen in time. Ensuring a strong foundation and financial future of our local governments is critical to the future of our state, and we cannot have a strong Maryland without fiscally healthy local governments. When our cities and counties lack the tools to maintain basic infrastructure or provide public safety, that burden eventually shifts to the state. By modernizing local revenue structures, we aren't just providing local relief to residents, we are protecting the state's long-term fiscal stability. HB 1142 is a responsible study approach. It brings the comptroller, the Department of Budget and Management, municipalities, counties, and other key stakeholders to the table to, one, evaluate current revenue sources available to the county and municipal governments. Two, look at optional revenue sources that are not currently being utilized. Three, review revenue sources employed in other states. Four, make recommendations regarding the authority of county and municipal governments to expand revenue sources. And five, analyze the impact of any revenue sources on overall affordability in our state. Local governments across the state have asked for our help, and this task force is a critical step towards a thoughtful and meaningful approach in moving forward. This legislation is a top priority for our Maryland Municipal League, and also is supported by, I believe, the Maryland Association of Counties, and I urge a favorable report for House Bill 1142.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Teresa Kuhns. I'm the CEO for the Maryland Municipal League. We are 161 local governments across the state of Maryland. We would like to thank the chair for her support of our bill and for working with us on this priority. It is the League's sole priority this year. This isn't just a bill for the members of MML. This is a bill for the future of local government sustainability, and frankly, it's a bill for the future of Maryland. It is a pivotal moment for us to come together and discuss where are we going as a state. The chair highlighted the one lever system, and for our members, the math is stark. On average, property taxes average about 50% for our municipality's general fund. In many of our towns, that number is even higher. You have testimony in your folder from a wide range of municipalities, including the city of Laurel, population of 30,000, where their property taxes make up 67% of their general fund. You will hear testimony from smaller towns in Eastern Shore, from the largest cities in the state. Our revenue infrastructure is a structural barrier for municipalities of all sizes, and it is the sole priority for a reason this year. While the state's independent revenue is diversified across income, sales, and corporate taxes, municipalities are legally restricted from tapping into the very economic growth that we help create and send to the state. Maryland's municipalities occupy less than 5% of the land mass. We generate over 1/3 of the sales tax revenue going to the state. We do not see a penny back. Our cities are the hubs of tourism and commerce, yet we lack the modern tools to capture a fair share of that activity, to pay for our police, our roads, our parks, and they're used by all visitors, residents and alike. Maryland is one of only 6 states that fails to share tax revenues from the sales of goods and services with local governments to allow these governments to collect it themselves. The fiscal burden of supporting these high traffic economics falls entirely on a local property owner, and it is not sustainable, it is not equitable, and it's certainly not affordable to any resident. This is a very big request, and we ask you for a favorable report on HB 1142.
Good afternoon, I'm Mayor Todd Knock. I am the mayor of Pocomoke City, Maryland, and I have the esteemed honor this year to represent the 161 tax districts here in the state of Maryland. Municipal revenues, municipal income tax revenue makes up about 40% roughly for most of us when we look at our budgets. And so we're asking for that to be explored today. We continue to make it on these budgets, but we have gotten to a place where the need for services have increased. We've gotten to a place where we've realized that we cannot carry this burden alone. We're not asking for anything to happen overnight, but what we are asking is that someone takes a look at it. Our municipalities are the backbone of this state. We are the people on the front lines. We are the people that hang out with our residents in bars. We're also the people that shop at the same grocery stores. There is a lot of pressure on municipal officials to really make their municipal budget stretch. So today I ask you to take all of that into consideration, and I respectfully urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Talisha Searcy, and I am the mayor of the city of Tacoma Park, Maryland. Tacoma Park expresses its strong support of HB 1142, which establishes a task force to modernize county and municipal revenue structures. This bill seeks to bring together stakeholders to review and recommend ways to update and improve the revenue options available to cities and counties across Maryland. Maryland's municipalities currently face limited choices in how they generate revenue. Many cities depend heavily on property taxes and a narrow set of fees, leaving them vulnerable when economic conditions change. Modernizing these structures is essential to providing flexibility and predictability, enabling cities to respond effectively to the needs of residents and businesses alike. Municipalities make significant contributions to the state. We provide services like housing, economic development, public works, and infrastructure, as well as public safety. The City of Tacoma Park also invests in community programs that address food insecurity, affordable housing, and innovative local sustainability initiatives that enhance the quality of life, not just for our residents, but for anyone who visits our community. Despite our best efforts, municipalities continue to face significant challenges in securing funding for this important work. With the expected reductions in federal grant funds, we can only anticipate these difficulties will increase, making it even harder to address local priorities and needs. To strengthen Maryland's communities, it is vital for cities, counties, and the state to work together in identifying funding sources that are stable, fair, and diverse. Collaboration will empower local governments to continue to make positive impacts and meeting the needs of their residents without financial insecurity. The City of Tacoma Park thanks Delegate Wilkins for her leadership in bringing this important bill forward, and we urge the committee to give HB 1142 a favorable report.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Kevin Canale here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties in support of the bill. You have our written testimony. Many of my comments have already been spoken. I will say that counties also are forced to rely on very, very unpopular and regressive property taxes to make up a large share of our budget. And we're just asking the General Assembly to do the same thing that you all do routinely. Just a few years ago, you passed a bill to update Maryland's revenue structure because it used to be that you paid sales tax on a CD or a book at the store, physical location. You didn't do that online, same product. The state said that's wrong. We need to update that because we need to modernize our economy and stay in line with where the business sectors are going. We're just asking you to put a bunch of experts around a table to take a look at municipal and county revenue structures and make recommendations that will ultimately be brought back to the General Assembly for your approval. But this is just trying to modernize. We are in the same budget situation as the state is. We don't have all of the levers to pull to make up. So we're just asking to put the smart people again at the table to take a look at this and report back, and we'd urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions for the sponsor or this panel? We have quite a few questions. Okay. Are there any real questions?
That took me a long time.
Any?
Very impressive, all of you. Flashing the lights.
All right. Okay. We do actually have.
Y'all got me. Y'all got me.
All right. Looks like we have one real question from Delegate Young.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And I just wanted the chair to know that that was me and Delegate Robeson's idea.
You want me to know you did it, huh?
Yes, ma'am. You know, we talk about land value tax a lot. Just wanted to make sure, put on the record, would that be something that this task force would also look at?
I believe so. I believe so. And I absolutely defer to the sponsor of the bill, but I think everything would be on the table. We've heard about that idea in recent sessions, in recent years. It's in bills. So I think anything would be germane to that conversation, and especially that we've talked about here in the legislature.
And just want to lift up, because part of the challenge with that is, you know, SDAT would have to do so many changes. And so, of course, we hope that this task force would also just bring in SDAT, because obviously they would potentially have to make changes depending on what y'all will come out with. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Okay. Seeing no other questions for this panel, we do have several other witnesses signed up to testify, so please come forward if you're still here. Mayor Cephas, Mayor Benitez, Michael O'Connor, Callie Schumets, and Commission President Cephas. And whoever wants to go first, you can go ahead and begin. You have 2 minutes each.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Co-Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is LaJan Cephas Bay. I'm the mayor of the city of Cambridge, and I'm also the president of the Eastern Shore Association of Municipalities. I'm urging a strong support for House Bill 1142, which is the task force to modernize county and municipal revenue. For a long time, rural counties like Dorchester have been trying to solve 2026 challenges operating under a mid-20th century revenue framework. That reality creates a strain not just for counties, but for municipalities and residents we serve. As a result, municipal residents in Cambridge are effectively double taxed. They pay county property taxes. They also pay city property taxes to fund services that we already provide at the city, such as police, code enforcement, planning and zoning, just to name a few. But to be clear, Dorchester County is doing its best with the limited revenue capacity. A significant portion of our county is natural environmental treasure, which means it's federally designated and protected, sadly yielding a reduced taxable base. Cambridge also represents just 2% of Dorchester County's landmass, yet we contribute a third of the county's revenue. So moving forward, I hope this task force will be established so we can identify additional revenue streams for our counties. Counties are likely to agree to maybe a tax set-off or possibly a tax differential if these additional revenue streams are found. And also, in addition to that, Maryland's Eastern Shore will not continue to fall behind. And also, for the record, I just wanted to express that we have about 9 counties, about 50 municipalities, and all those municipalities or residents are double taxed. But with all that, I respectfully request a favorable report of HB 1142. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much for your time today. I'm Michael O'Connor. I'm the mayor of the city of Frederick, the second largest city in the state, and a city whose property tax revenues push 80% when it comes to our total revenue base for the city of Frederick. Our residents want their parks improved. They want their streets taken care of. They want police officers on the beat, and they want us to cut taxes. And that is a common refrain, and it's very difficult when you have so few tools in the toolbox. The longer something goes, and I appreciate the conversation, there's been a lot of conversation about property taxes, about taxing affordability, about what that means for the state, what that means for local governments. The longer we go without addressing a change, the more it just feels like that's the way the world is supposed to be. And it can't continue this way because we're facing right now, I think this conversation with the affordability discussions, it becomes particularly acute. How long is 60 years? The Beatles were still together and they were all still alive. No one had heard of Taylor Swift, and none of us were carrying around supercomputers that allow us to buy cars and alcohol and apartments and hotel rooms and gamble in our pockets. There's no question that the world has changed substantially in the last 60 years. And over the last 16 years, which is how long I've been watching this, sporadic bills and requests have come in from municipalities and MML asking for this authority or that tax or this, and we've certainly changed the tax code over that time. But this is the first time we've come in with this kind of approach. Let's take a comprehensive look at a problem that we all have to deal with and come up with a modern system that serves both city governments, county governments, and the state. Something that doesn't pit cities and counties against one another or the city against the state. Let's figure out a way that we can work together to modernize these structures. I respectfully request a favorable report.
Good
afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Buddy Cephas, President of the City Council, City of Cambridge on Maryland's beautiful Eastern Shore. I'm here today in support of HB 1142 as well. Local governments are the front lines of serving our residents. We maintain roads, provide public safety, economic development, and invest in our communities. Yet the revenue systems we rely on have been in place and are not kept up to pace with the growing responsibilities that are placed on us. On the Eastern Shore, many municipalities depend heavily on property taxes. We do not have as large of commercial corridors and major corporate tax bases like other parts of the state. This makes our revenue systems more fragile and more sensitive to economic shifts. One example is the county municipal tax differential, whereas many residents who live in town limits pay both county and municipal taxes, while neighboring unincorporated areas often receive similar services without the added burden. This creates inequity, discourages in-town homeownership, and places added strain on municipal budgets, especially if those funds are not properly shared, which are not a requirement, as Dorchester County is considered a May County versus a Shall County. At the same time, our towns are maintaining aging water and sewer systems, managing flood risk, protecting sensitive waterways, and responding to seasonal tourism demands, often with limited and outdated revenue tools. HB 1142 does not raise taxes. However, it also does not mandate new fees, but it also will create a task force to study whether our current system is fair, sustainable, and aligned with today's realities. With almost two decades of experience in banking and finance, I know that strong institutions require modern, balanced financial structures, and our local governments deserve the same. So I do respectfully ask for a favorable report regarding House Bill 1142. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Callie Schumitz with the Maryland Center on Economic Policy. And thanks to Chair Wilkins for introducing this bill. Local governments deliver a wide range of essential services that are really important to our quality of life and to as the foundation of our economy, including education, public health, transportation, among many others. And they're also at the end of the line when it comes to funding decisions. And we've seen in recent years with the state trying to balance the budget with federal budget cuts, that is putting additional pressures on our local governments. So having a more robust set of options for funding local public services will give communities the opportunity to have conversations among themselves with their local elected governments to determine the right level of services for them and the right mix of revenue to fund those. The limited options local governments have today, as you've heard, make them very reliant on the property tax to fund their share of public services. But because property taxes, landlords can pass property taxes on to tenants in the form of higher rent, they can place disproportionate responsibility on families with low means. So even if you don't own a home yourself, you can't afford it, you are still paying property taxes. So we think it makes sense to broaden the range of options available that could potentially support a more equitable local tax system. So we strongly support creating this task force to examine best practices from around the country and to identify the options that make the most sense for Maryland communities. Ask for a favorable report on House Bill 1142.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimony. That concludes our hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. Were there any questions for this panel? I didn't see any lights. Okay. Then thank you all for your testimony, and that concludes our hearing on House Bill 1142, and it also concludes our bill hearings for the afternoon. So enjoy the rest of your day.